Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Larry, and this is the Shadow City Podcast, and this is the Shadows Within. And I got a very special guest in Jason Miller, who goes by many other call names and characters, and we're going to learn about them. And he has a few other things he would like to discuss that I have written down and how we go about it. So, this should be fun. We wait upon him. Let's hope it adds him. There he goes. Welcome, welcome.
How we doing?
Not too bad. Just woke up not too long ago. I have my morning juice, which is my Pepsi. What are you drinking on?
Uh, Usually I drink cherry Coke. Right now, looks like to be Shasta Orange.
Not bad, not bad. I respect that.
Yep.
Freaking good to have you here. I know there was a few things you wanted to discuss, and we also are going to talk about your characters. I would like to ask you, would you want us to start with your characters, or do you want us to go into the stuff you wanted to discuss? Because I have a list of everything.
Um, we can discuss it however you like. If you want to go
All right.
into my background with my cause, that's fine. If you want to go into a different direction, that's fine too. I think my background would probably be the best way to start.
I love it. I love it. Would love to know more about your characters. And you've talked to me in DMs about how each member of your characters, they're all part of one faction, correct?
Correct. So all my characters are part of a bigger faction called Element. Um, it's basically different parts of, some would say, my personality. Others say that when you're wrestling or when you're doing things, you're like in your element. So I've taken uh, that very to like the literal sense, and that is Element. 33 plus cause.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll only be discussing a few of them, but I'm also working on two other factions that are still in the works. We have Venom, who is going to be basically snake based. So you
Okay.
have anacondas, vipers, um, cobras, garden snakes, stuff like that. So each one will have a mark of a snake, and then another one I'm working on is nest, and those are all inspired by birds.
But each one of them has an elemental dragon tattoo. Are these not going to have that?
No, my elemental faction, they all have a dragon tattoo. And that's
Okay.
what inspired me to go into two different directions with other factions, because I can only build on one faction so long. I'm eventually going to have different things. So I'm working on one that's going to be snake based and another one that's going to be bird based. But with element, every one of them's a dragon based, because when I first started in e-fetting, I started in a PvP group. For those of you who don't know, that's player versus player, called Overlord Wrestling, OLW. You can go check them out on Facebook. And I started off just calling myself the Dragon. But when I called myself that, I didn't realize there was a tag team that called themselves the Double Dragons because they were twins.
Yeah.
So from that, we ended up in a match against each other to see who could hold the rights to the dragon, and I ended up winning that one. But instead of getting rid of it, I decided that I'm going to change it up a little bit. So I created the Sacred Dragon. So he became the higher up above dragons. So I had to learn the mythology of dragons, and then finding out that each dragon represents a different element. And to think that, most people think of elements, they think of fire, wind, water, air, but there's so much more elements than just those basic ones. And I have bridged my cause based on those.
Yes, you sent me a whole list. There was quite a few on there, and I got a list of all the names that you sent me for each of your characters and what element they represent. And some of them I noticed like one, two particular have the same one.
Which ones?
The Aether belongs to Sacred and Io Dragon
Oh,
or
Eo.
Eo Dragon.
Eo Dragon. So Sacred was my original call, and Eo was my
Mhm.
original female call. Now, when it comes down to Ether, that's basically like the strongest element. Like they're the souls of element, so that's why they're
Yeah.
both the same element. They're both the god and goddesses of the dragon.
Okay. You want to tell us their background since they were your first male and female? So I would imagine they started together.
Actually, they didn't. One started first, and then the other one started shortly after.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so when you start off like in anything when you're like growing up, you always make yourself and whatnot. And I remember making the dragon Jason Miller, and then I turned him into Sacred. The more I got into creating and um, deciding what path I wanted to go, and then once I started getting into the lore, I realized like, hey, I need a yin to the yang. I need a double side to the coin. So that's when EO came about. Um, and I remember that time I was watching uh, a Japanese wrestler named Io Shirai, and
Ooh.
she was known as the Sky Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, so I looked up Io and I was like, oh, Io means goddess of dragons. And
Ugh.
so I took that name from her and built my own uh, version of her as Io. And at that time, I was just like, I got two, we're good. And then once I started getting more into OLW, the PvP group, they wanted to put me on as a manager. And when that happened, that's one of the things that I think we'll discuss here later when it comes down to PvP. The problem I was running into, and so were others, where our opponent wasn't showing up or anything like that. Like life gets busy, stuff like that. So then, um, I created a whole list of people, and they were all just like what I called cabinet cause. So if their opponent didn't show up, they wrestled one of my guys that wasn't quote unquote in the league, but it also helped them get their points or not get their points, but they actually got to participate instead of just wait till next card. At that point I realized like, oh, I actually have something here, and I wanted to do something different than anybody else instead of just making um just random calls because I like this or I like that. I put them all together, and then I wrote lore on them all. So from it started off with EO for my women's division and Sacred for my men's division, and then from there it grew on. Then I got invited to Fire Squad Entertainment (FSE), and they wanted me to join. And then I brought in Vincent Zander, my Street Fighter call. I went into IPW where I brought in War and Peace. And then I started getting a little bit tired with PvP. Um, Things were going on outside, so I had to step away from that. And then they introduced one of the guys from, I think it was IPW, introduced me to the New Breed with MJ Jones, and that's when I got my first taste on AI versus AI feds. And they really liked my War and Peace call, and so we went over there to the New Breed where I got to meet MJ Jones and other great people like the Savage, Hired Gun, the Kang Del Rio, um, and the Alpha Male Pat Legends, and the list goes on and on. And it was from there I finally got my love for e-fetting, and War and Peace became my like ace call through that.
Okay. And as you were talking about, War and Peace possesses the element of light, while Street Fighter Xander possesses the element of the nightmare.
Yep.
And You told us how EO comes from EO Sky. What about Sacred? And if you want to go into War and Peace and Vincent Alexander,
Um, so the idea I had with Sacred was when I was doing PvP, I was noticing everybody was doing almost everybody had the same style call. They
yeah,
all looked different, but they were all the same. They're all 7 foot tall. They were all 1,000 pounds, and like a majority of them had like the same moveset. But I
oh,
kept my guy small, and the idea I had behind Sacred was that he drank the internal blood of the dragon, and so
mhm.
he gained the powers of Sacred. So he in turn bodies the ether of all dragons, and so by the means of that is when it comes down to my team, my faction, it's like what he says goes. Everyone has respect for him. Now, when it comes down to War and Peace being my Dragon of Light, he's my right hand man in Element. I actually have
Yeah.
him written to take over once I decide to retire the actual cause of Sacred and EO, or just Sacred in general. Um, because everything about him is light. When I first created him, I was reading Sun Tzu's Art of War, and that inspired me to create War and Peace. And the idea was
He's
it
also nicknamed
was,
the War Machine. I notice,
huh?
but
Yes.
he's nicknamed the War Machine. Yeah.
And that came by accident. Honestly, I was cutting a promo against a guy. His name was Zane Styles, and
Okay.
what happened was is like he cut a promo on me, and I rebutted back, and I was like, "Are you ready to? Do you think you have what it takes to fight a war machine?" And then from there, it just stuck. And it's funny how when stuff like that happens, the like how would you put it? When your opponent gives you your character, like when you're building someone, you want to go direction, but your opponent gives you your gimmick by accident, and
Coincidence, maybe?
that's where the War Machine was actually birthed, because War and Peace was just supposed to be your to achieve peace, to achieve light, you have to go through war. And then just randomly popping off, like you think you have what it takes to go against a war machine. I was like, oh wait, now I got a title in front of it, and then everyone just started running with this. So I'm like, okay, I'm the war machine now. Let's make this gimmick work even more, to where now I do promos. I'll take a knife and I'll cut my throat, and I'll be telling them like, you think you think you have what it takes to go against me? I will. I machines don't bleed. I won't die. And I'll take a knife and I'll cut my throat and you'll see no blood. And that's the kind of mind game I play with that. Now, with Vincent Xander being my Nightmare Dragon, when he went to XIW, uh, over there I play as Vincent Xander. I went a full year uh, where if my character bled, I won. If I
Yeah.
didn't bleed, I ended up losing the match. So that was the fun thing about that. So I was like, so my gimmick there became bleeding is winning. And then when I was coming up with his element nightmare, it's like, what is the most scariest thing to as a wrestler to see in the ring? And it's like, it's a guy covered in blood, still coming and kicking your ass. So that's where he became everyone's nightmare. And
Yeah.
that gimmick still lives today, but it was literally a full year to where even the announcer was like, "Uh oh, he's busted open." The fans were watching. Is like, "Uh oh, Xander's busted open. We're screwed." I remember I was in a we were at the Royal Rumble pay per view in XIW, and I was in a world title match against Jason Dixon. For any of you guys that know him, and he beat me, but he didn't. He never busted me open, and I was like, "Man, I lost because I didn't bleed." Turn around, I go into the Royal Rumble. I enter at number 16. By the time number 20 comes in, I'm busted open. I ended up winning the entire Royal Rumble, and the last four eliminations were done by me personally. And I was like, the gimmick is real. Like, you got to believe what it is. So that's where Vincent Xander as the Nightmare Dragon comes in. It comes in bleeding is winning, and that's to me that was like the most scaring thing that I could come up with that the game would allow is like if your opponent is gushed open, bloody, and is still beating you, I would figure that would be like a wrestler's worst nightmare because he's got to go to the back and think, what did I do wrong? Like, is what's going on? Is that's the power of the Nightmare Dragon.
Understood. Welcome, James Black, a man that I know you know well. And hi, Mom. How are you? Welcome, Trey Thomas and Mr. McCain. Zay McCain. Yeah.
Yep.
You were telling me
Um,
how James Black has been instrumental in helping you.
Oh, I give a lot of credit to MJ Jones from the New Breed on helping me pave my way into AI versus AI eFeds and how to go about things and creating the business. I give a lot of credit to James Black for putting faith into me when most people weren't because like they weren't understanding me and they weren't believing me. But James came up with an idea that we did last year, and that was that War and Peace, my Dragon of Light, has a twin brother that no one knows about, and so we created Chris Chaos. And we were throwing around the names for like a little bit. Like I remember one time, I think we were thinking about calling him Julius, but I didn't really like that much. And I remember playing. I was doom scrolling through my phone, and I came across a skit for Resident Evil 5, and it was Wesker just upset about Chris. And I was like, oh, I got my name. Now I got to figure out what can go with Chris. And it's like, well, he's my Dragon of Light. I was like, there's a lot of people that like to have darkness characters. Like they want an Undertaker character. They want a Bray Wyatt character, the Aleister Blacks and whatnot. So I wanted to do something a little different. And so I went Chaos. And from there I went Chris Chaos. And James Black helped me develop that character. We figured out a way to do promoing and stuff like that where I started using lights. I have Chris Chaos wears a mask. He talks very slow. He talks about the fans aren't fans, they're his children. He does I went kind of cult with it, which means I had to go like I went on like YouTube and Netflix and a few other places where I could study how cult people worked, their behaviors, their mannerisms, so I can actually get that believing ability when it comes down to promoing. Because if you promo and it ain't and you don't feel it, like are you being real to yourself? And are you being real to your fans? And you can look at my like Netflix and my Hulu and all that. You would think I'm a very boring person because I study so much so I can make these characters be as real as possible.
What is the element that Chris Chaos, since we were talking about him, possess?
Shadow.
Shadow.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, like when I created Chris Chaos a year ago, I had to write lore for him. So when we had to do that, I was like, okay, so these two were a tag team. These guys were the Yin Yang twins. I was gonna go double dragon, but Billy D. Williams and Rob Williams own that, and I don't want to take that from them. So I came up with the Yin Yang twins, and it was for every every dark side there's a light side. For every light side there's a dark side. So they mirrored well with each other. And he would always talk about Chris would always talk about his fans being children, how he was thanking people for their sacrifice because he wasn't looking at anybody as an opponent, he was looking at them as an offering.
Okay.
And Warren was always about he will go to battle for anybody if the reason was justified. Like he had no problem stepping up. He had no problem getting into the ring with anybody. It was just who he deemed worthy to fight. But a lot of Chris Chaos came through James Black, and I have to give him all the respect in the world because he helped me literally develop that character, and he's one of three that helped me develop a character.
Welcome, Deval Dog Hartford, who I know you know well. Welcome,
Ah, my
Travis. I
brother in
love you too,
arms.
my brother. And he says that you're looking good, Jason, says
Thank you.
Travis.
Yeah, I'm wearing the War and Peace cut that I usually do promos in, um, and stuff like that. We got put together as a tag team. That was just recently. We've worked together in the past, but we finally decided to make it official. Devil Dog and me are known as the Brothers in Arms. You can catch us together on 3Dub. We also have a faction called Forge in Pain with MDX and Gorilla Cruz. You can catch us there at RCW and Rated R Wrestling. They've been around for a while, but they're new E-Feds that I've been a part of, and I'm really liking them because RCW stands for Realistic Caw Wrestling. So we all look the part. We're not fantasy based or anything like that. We got blue skin, green skin, red skin, anything like that. We all look like you would go to an indie show and see us, or TNA and you would see us, or Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I respect that. Good stuff. There is a whole wide EFED community out there.
Which is the funny
Elizabeth,
thing is when I first started eFeds, I noticed like out of the 20 I was starting to get into, it was like the same 15 people were in those, but then I started graduating more into other things, and I was like, oh, there's just 20 for those eFeds, but there's like 670. And the funny thing is, it's all different initials. I'm like, how do you guys get away with like not copyright infringement? But we're all family here.
yeah, we're all trying to make the same thing at the end of the day. And Elizabeth Violet, who possessed the element of darkness.
Yes. Elizabeth Violet is actually um, she was actually the fiance and slash girlfriend of Vincent Zander. Vincent saved her from uh, I had this whole story where Vincent was an underground street fighter when I was first building him. When I was actually first giving him his first identity, let me rewind back. When I first started building all my claws, when they were classified the cabinet claws, and they're all before Element was getting off the ground, they all kind of looked like you remember Mortal Kombat 1 and 2?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they all looked like that. They all look like they all dressed the same, but like their colors were swapped and things like
yeah.
that. So all my male calls looked kind of the same. All my female calls looked the same. But once I started branching them off and giving them their own unique personalities, I turned Vincent Zander into like this underground street fighter. And in my lore, he ends up saving Elizabeth Violet from an underground like traffic ring, and
Yeah.
them two have been inseparable ever since.
Coming from something like that, I would imagine so.
Yeah, and she it's funny too because like the way I write her is she's got a lot of darkness in her heart, but for some reason the nightmare calms her. Like they work well with each other, and I know when I explained this to when I showed my work to like somebody is like this should not make sense, but all your stuff doesn't make sense but makes sense. Like you have a
Yeah.
guy, like going back to War and Peace, like you have a guy with no identity, but he's like one of your strongest guys with identity. And you can flip it on anybody. Then you have um, Elizabeth Violet, my darkness one, VIP, my time dragon, because he was originally a street racer, so he was all about precision and uh, when to do the right thing at the right time, and that was fun creating him. But yeah, Elizabeth and Xander are inseparable together so far.
Well,
And
since you were talking,
what you could have seen her on 3Dub for a minute, but I kind of pulled her away because I wanted to work on her some more. Especially with the new game coming out, there's going to be a lot more things you can do with the female calls, especially. And so they're like, not every one of my elemental family are in a current EFED right now, but they're all um, ready to go.
Understood. Always good to have them on standby.
Right.
And since you were talking about Victor Ian Parker, who does possess the element of time, you want to go into him, and his nickname is VIP.
Yeah. So he's the cousin of Vincent Xander and the cousin of Warren Peace and Alexa Sexton, who's my dragon, who's my elemental fire dragon. But VIP was created out of spite. So in an EFED I was a part of, there was a guy that was constantly harassing our female staff. So what I mean by that was is like he couldn't break in character and out of character together, and like some of our females were coming to me crying about it because this guy was just rude and everything on the site, and I absolutely had enough of it. And at that time, I was Vincent Xander, the Street Fighter, and we had a match, and we basically made it to where loser leaves town and whatnot, uh, and he beat me. So Vincent Xander had to leave, and I was gone for like a week and a half from the company. So no one really knew what was going on except for the manager, the owner of it. And he's like, "So what are you going to do? You want to bring in this person?" Like, "No, I want to create somebody new." And they're like, "So what do you got in mind?" I said, "I don't quite know yet." And with the Street Fighter, I wanted something kind of similar. And at that time, I was playing a game called Juice 2 Hot Important Nights, was a street racing game. And I was like, how interesting would it be to make a street racer? And I made it. I had Vincent get on a bus and a plane and fly to Japan, and where he was training and doing his own thing, and then realizes VIP is in Japan running the street racing circuit. So he flies back to get revenge for his cousin. And the idea behind VIP was I was at a Comic Con back in 2015, and I met MVP.
Oh,
And I was trying to, I was like, I got to meet him, got pictures with him and all that. And I was like, man, it'd be nice if like to have like a character like around you. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, you're Montel Vontavious Porter. I was like, what if someone, like, has anyone else done like the three initials where it makes like something like that? So it's like, and I told him, it's like, I would be like Victor Ian Porter. And he goes, Victor Ian Porter. So VIP. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's the way I'm going to go with it. And then the more I played with it, I was like, Parker. Parker sounds more professional. And I introduced Parker, or I introduced VIP in the beginning in XIW as like a high stakes, like I take control general manager. So like I when I went in there, I'm like, hey, this is Victor Ian Parker, the general manager of XIW. We're now moving into a different direction. XIW is still going on, but now we're going to go into UCW, which is Ultimate Championship Wrestling, which then became UXW. And that's where he came in originally. But then I was just going to leave him as a manager, but then I had more fun with this whole street racing idea for Victor that when I brought him in, he became the street racer, Victor Ian Parker, VIP, very high prestigious, but also very cunning and thinks he was a better than anybody because he was like he could drift, he could do anything, and he was pretty good for a while. And then I started evolving his character, and I think we'll talk about evolving characters later on.
okay. Next one I have up is Hope Summers, which develops which has the element of echo.
Yes, she's my voice of reason.
Okay.
Yeah. So Hope Summers wasn't even originally mine. I ended up getting her in the new breed with Warren Peace, and I got to give thanks again to MJ Jones and even Hired Gun because Hope originally belonged to Hired Gun, and when I first came in, I was so used to PvP, And that was just like, you got your card, you did your match, you got your rankings. And in New Breed, which was my first AI versus AI, is like we had to cut promos, we had to do this, but you had a point system. So you had a promo, you had to have a good rivalry, how your match worked, everything of the sort. So I remember like my first set of matches, I was losing, but I wasn't doing anything. And MJ was telling me, "Hey, we need more out of you." I'm like, "Well, what do you need?" He goes, "Well, you got to do this, you got to do that." And he broke it all down to me. And I was in a match with Hired Gun, and he beat me with a clothesline. I was like so mad about it. And I was sitting there, I was like, man, I got beat by a clothesline. Like, what do I do with that? And that becomes like the power of the promo right there and your ability to work. So I did this whole uh, promo storyline with Hired Gun after he beat me with a clothesline, because he dropped a promo where he was just drinking a cup of coffee. He goes, I just War and Peace his ass of what's next for me. And at that time, MJ told me about promoing and all that. So I did this whole thing where I was in the hospital. Like that's how he beat me with a clothesline. He aggravated I got injured, so we had to call the match. And so I did this whole like, I'm at the hospital. Um I get released from the hospital. You now see me in a wheelchair. I'm now training and this, that, and the other. And then I beat him. Me and Higher Gun go back and I beat him, and I beat him by submission. So then we run it back, and I beat him again by submission. And so now I got 2 tap out wins from him. I'm now starting to understand the process and the program, and I'm loving every minute of it. And me and him now have to go at pay-per-view. Well, we're in the live chat, and uh, I tell him, it's like, oh, I go up to your office, and I hand your office staff, because he had 3 ladies with him. Hope, Faith, and I think Grace. And I hand one of them a white flag, because that was the name of my finisher, was the white flag. Do you know Becky Lynch? I know Becky Lynch. I've met her in
That
person.
welcome Taylor Collins. Is that not one of your people?
I'm not sure. It went away, so I couldn't see. But so I hand one of the ladies a white flag. I said, "Hey, make sure your boss gets this," because I was playing mind games. And I beat him, and he fired her. So I ended up picking her up, and then she became one of mine. And I even asked him, like, we were off base, and I was off to the side. And I was like, "Hey, does this character have a name or anything like that?" He goes, "Hope." And I'm like, "Cool, I'm gonna make a call for her and all that." He goes, "Go for it. She's yours now." I'm like, "Bet." And uh, I turned her into Hope Summers, and she became my voice of reason, because in New Breed, I was picking up momentum like the next year, to where I ended up winning the King of the Hill tournament, and it was a point based system, and I won by 1 point from Hired Gun. So at that point, I was like, let's turn War and Peace a little heel, but not have him do it. So I had Hope cut all of his promos all the way up until the title match against Alpha Male Pat Legend, and we fought. I won, and then I kept having her do it all until I lost the title. Then she got mad, and we separated. But that's how Hope became my Dragon of Echo. She was always my voice of reason, because even though she could say one thing, it's like she could always say something, and he would always believe it. So with all my dragons per se, anytime something goes wrong, she's the voice of reason. So that's where I gave her the Echo.
Next up on my list is, I don't know if I'm going to say this name right, but I'm going to try,
Okay.
Maximus Penatrius,
Maximus Penetratius.
and he owns the element of stone.
He's the element of stone. He's my gladiator.
Okay.
Yeah. I got him straight from Magnus and TNA. I straight stole that gimmick.
Damn.
when
Okay.
uh when Nick Aldis was first brought into TNA, he was a gladiator
Ah.
character.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I want to build a gladiator type guy. And so I was like, I was doing that, and I was like, what would be a good name for him? I was throwing around a bunch of things, and at that time, I had a girlfriend that was into Renaissance fairs and stuff like that. So we went, and I remember they were doing like this whole thing with body armor, and they had big swords that were made out of wood, and then they were demonstrating on how to fight like you would back in that day. And these guys were just bashing each other, and like, but they also had like funny names. Like one of the guys was like, I want to say 350 pounds, and he called himself Elmo the Destroyer.
I don't doubt it. I really
Yeah,
don't doubt it.
and I was just like, wow. And I was like, I was messing with things too, and I was like, man, what would be like? Because like I saw these guys with a lot of these funny names like Elmo the Destroyer and all this. I was like, what if I did a gimmick like that? And I was like, what would be funny? And I remember uh, I remember flipping through channels and I came across like an old Yu-Gi-Oh episode, and the villain at that time was Maximilian Pegasus, and I was like,
Yeah.
Maximilian sounds good. And then I came across Gladiator where it was Maximus, and I was like, oh, there we go. Now, what would be funny? Now, what would work with that? And I went with a bunch of things and ended up with Penetratious spinning off the idea of maximum penetration. So when you go up against him, you know you're getting screwed. And the funny thing with that, I went with him with the element of stone because no matter how weak he looks, he's still hard as rock.
Indeed.
Yeah. So that's where he came. That's where he came in, and that was a fun one to build.
Now you got Andrew Hunter, which is Earth.
Yeah, Andrew Hunter. He's I got the idea from him. I first originally was going to just make him a reporter, but then when I started making him more as a wrestler, um, I went with the whole hunting gimmick, and so like he prowls the earth looking for his next prey and his next victim. So that's where that comes in. So
Okay.
some of these have great lore to them, and other ones are just like as easy as that, where it's like he's a hunter, he goes seeking his victims, and then he collects. And like even his catchphrase is "the hunt is on," and it's like
I like that.
so when you can either be the hunter or you can be the hunted, but when you go against Andrew Hunter, you're always the prey.
Kind of like the Wolves from TNA.
Yeah.
Good. How about Miss Nicole Fisher, who is electricity? That's her element.
Oh, so she is very sparky and electrifying. She's like my female version of The Rock, where she just
Oh,
generates
well.
electricity. She just knows how to make people pop and just get under people's skin, and she is very quick witted.
Okay.
Yeah.
About Wild Rage, which is the element of storm.
So Wild Rage isn't officially mine yet, and I was actually hoping he'd be on here right now, but I think he's asleep. Uh, in XIW, when I was Vincent Zander, and I was also corporate in that we had a. He decided that he wanted to do a storyline with my corporate guy to take over. Now Wild Rage was a part of a group called the Asylum, and he was with Sadistic Joker and all that, but I think they phased off for a minute, and it was just him holding down the Asylum. So
Okay.
when he was going against my corporate character, which I think at that time the owner changed it from Victor to just Jay Miller, and he put me in like a blue suit and whatnot, which was absolutely fine. He We had this whole fight about like he's from the asylum and I'm corporate America, so he's going to fight this, that, and the other. And I told him like I was going to tear down the asylum and put a hotel and casino there. And from that point, we were about to get in the ring, and I tell him, like, hey, you're not fighting me, you're fighting a person of my choosing. And it ended up being Vincent Zander. So I was like, hey, let me introduce you to my nephew, Vincent Zander. And he gets beat. I tear down the asylum. I put in a hotel and casino and all that. And then now he works for me as my janitor cleaning toilets. And this is one thing I love about Amp Woods, who plays Wild Rage, is he went with the gimmick. He didn't just say screw this or anything like that. He went with it, and he was a man enough to go with the defeat. Unlike some others I've known, where it's like you'll lose, but you'll still cut a promo that you won, and it's like that don't make sense. But we'll talk about that later. And then through that storyline, he ends up becoming family, and Wild Rage, the creator behind Wild Rage, is getting ready to retire. You'll be able to find his last match, and you can see him on C2CW, Coast to Coast Wrestling. He's getting ready to retire at our event, the third chapter. He's getting ready to fight Vincent Xander at K2K26. That's going to be our first show at once we move into WWE 2K26. And that's when he's going to get his Mark of the Dragon. And me and him were talking about it. He goes, man, you've wanted me in Element for a while. And I said, well, when I brought in Bella Rose, she was another outside character, but you've been with me longer than Izzy, so I just feel it's appropriate. And with you retiring, I could take over the character, and you can ride off into the sunset, but still see your character grow. So we went through like this whole thing of like he's Wild Rage, and he became my Storm Dragon for that, and he can't wait to see what I do with it. But with the Storm, with him being wild and rage, it's like the perfect thing for him is just a storm, because you don't know what you're getting with the storm. You could get light showers, or you can get an F5 hurricane.
True that.
Yeah.
And Taylor says, love you guys. Keep up the good work. And do you guys know CM Punk? Yes, I think we know who CM Punk is.
Yeah.
Next up on my list is Drake Frost, which is iced. I think the last name speaks for itself.
Yeah. He's my ice dragon, but he's also like a very chilled, lax surfer type. So when I created
Like
him,
Surfer Theme?
yeah. Well, like the way I do his mannerisms and all that, he's like very bra and bummer, and he just doesn't let things get to him because he's always chill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Mom. Welcome. Hope you are well. It's my mom.
Hi, Mom.
Next up. Next up is Ivy Taylor, which is Growth.
Yes, Ivy Taylor is one of my newest ones, but she's actually my wife's call.
Oh.
Yeah, her original name was Iris Taylor, but the game doesn't have Iris, so we went with Ivy. And from the way she's been acting in the E-Feds, it's like she was known as like basically a job. So she was there, but she was just always losing matches. But lately she's like kicked off like basically unturned like this whole era of performance and growth, and to see her take off to where she was handed a championship because someone was retired and they handed her the title, and I was like, oh, so she's just going to be a paper champion. And then she successfully defended it 3, 4, 5 times before losing it, and now she's like one of the top female talent in the event that she's representing right now. And she's also a member of the House, but the House is falling apart. If you guys want to know more about that, we can talk into that later. But you can also just see that over at C2CW.
All right. Next up is Alexis Sexton, which is Fire. And yes, Mom, you know I like to get my interviews done any day, anytime.
Yes, Alexis Sexton is the half sister of Vincent Xander, and she's just a red hot, fiery personality. With her corkscrew moonsault that she calls "Sex on the Beach," she loves she has a passion just to burn her opponent. But she also has like this habit of playing with her food. So like you think that like the person's done, put them away, and she won't, and then it'll end up costing her in the long run. And then she gets really hot headed. So that's where she comes into play.
Candy Holiday, which is Crystal.
Yes, Candy Holiday is also one of my wife's characters. Now, me and my wife were training to be indie wrestlers. I used to do it like 20 years ago. And then recently we tried to get back into it. And the idea of her character was we had a lady there named Dre All Day. And so when we were trying to come up with her character, we wanted something that was challenging for her. And she was talking about it was like around Christmas time a couple years back, and she goes, "It's we got like all this like holiday candy. What are we going to do with it?" And I'm like, "I think we just got your gimmick." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Your candy holiday." And she goes, "I don't understand." I said, "Well, you know, we have Dre all day, but holidays are special. And not only that, but you could have different attires for every month because there's always a different holiday in the month. So you could have Valentine's Day with the candy hearts, Halloween, Christmas, and all this. And so that became like a whole thing. And then when I was trying to come up with her being a part of Element, we were walking by this candy store and they had crystal candy. And so I was like, there's your gimmick. So then I had to write this whole thing about how she's basically a almost like a charmer. Like when you go to like a carnival or anything like you see in the movie, you always have like that one tent where it's the fortune teller and she's got all these crystals and charmers. So that's kind of the way I wrote her character.
Okay, I
Yeah.
like that. The last one I have listed for your characters that we will talk about is Bella Rose, which is Fear.
Yes. So Bella Rose was another one that did not originally belong to me. I created her from scratch, but she belonged to a friend of mine that I used to work with, Isabella, Izzy, and we we brought her in because I was running an angle with somebody in of EFED, and it kind of just fell apart, and I didn't like the way it fell apart. And I was discussing it with her at work, and she goes, "This sounds like something I'd be interested in." So we brought her on. We built her character, and then through role playing and all that, we brought her into Element, and it was real fun making her character too because she's one of my most colorful characters. She has different color hair, and all that because she wanted to first start off as like a rave personality or like someone you see at a rave and all that. And then when she started getting more into it and started getting more serious, she's like, "Tell me about Element." And I broke it all down to her, explained it to her. She goes, "That sounds like something." I said, "We could role play you into it." And so we did. And her finisher was known at that time as the Black Rose. And when it comes down to that, it's like no matter what she looked like, she would always bring fear to others because you don't know what she was capable of because she was really good at talking, um, and putting like people in their place and making people second guess herself. So she had like this internal fear about things because like she would be in an 8 man and then you would think somebody was winning it and all of a sudden she got the victory. I remember they were doing a championship 4-way. It was like a factions belt, and she won the qualifying for her team. They went head to head, and she won it for their team. Then they decided that because factions were constantly breaking up, that they turned it into like a solo title, and she won that belt. So, and then she was known as the Queen Bee, and she held that title for a long time. But the way she could talk to people, it was like you're scary. Like there's a certain amount of fear you bring to it. And she's like, you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies even closer. And that's where she liked the idea of fear and the way she could talk. So I did made her my fear dragon. And the funny thing is, like on my chart, fear was like implemented in like magenta, and that was kind of like her character colors where it was like this magenta, pink, purple, and like a teal blue or a darker blue. So it worked out really well for her. And there's Miss Alexa Rain. We're working something together storyline wise.
Oh, what's up, Miss Rain? Welcome, Alexa. Welcome.
Yeah.
So, the elements that I have listed that you don't have anybody for, Do you mind if we go through them to see if you have any ideas for them at all?
We can go through a few. I don't mind.
So sound, I noticed is not on one.
Sound, because I was looking at that one, and that one would be like a musician style wrestler. So like you've watched WWE, you had like some that were like Broadway, or you had like the Headbangers and stuff like that, where they were very musical oriented, or Elias. I think that's the way I want to work that call. I just haven't figured out what I want to do with it yet. Do I want to make him? Do I want to make him like a country? Do I want to make him heavy metal, rock and roll, or do I want to go a different route where like he plays piano and so he'll write like a sympathy for your doom, a
How
symphony.
about
That's the word I was looking for.
how about Inferno?
Inferno. I'm looking at possibly for that one making a guy that when we were talking about PvP where everyone was like 7 foot tall, 1,000 pounds. I think that's going to be my first giant, and I think I'm going to make him more like a volcano style, where it's like he's very calm when he comes in, but as soon as that bell rings, he explodes.
Okay. How about Lava?
Lava, if I go with the route with Inferno, I think Lava I will make the same way, but I think that one's going to be female,
Okay.
and she's going to be very slick and smooth. Uh, when it comes down to like her style, the way she holds herself and stuff like that, because Lava is very beautiful when you see it like up close and in person, but as soon as it hits something, it destroys it.
Indeed. How about Frost?
Frost, I think I'm gonna make. I haven't really touched base on Frost yet, but if you coming at me right now, I think I would make a female version of Drake, or like a tomboy style female wrestler. Um, if anybody here has ever watched like Power Rangers Ninja Storm, the Blue
Yeah.
Ranger Tori, which was like the first female Blue Ranger, I think that's the kind of personality I would give her.
Okay. That's an interesting way to go about it. Very
Hmm.
nice. How about Water?
Water, she would be Asian, and I think I would have her like almost an environmentalist. So think Guy from Captain Planet.
Ah, okay. Captain Planet. Jeez, man.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about me. I know, uh, like I told you, you can look at like my streaming service and all that. I look rather boring, but like I have all these things. That's like where it's like I get inspiration from everything, whether it
That's
be
awesome.
a murder mystery or whether it be a cartoon that happened in like the early '90s. I can make everything work, and that's one of the special things I think I have with me is I can work with anybody, but they got to be able to make sense.
That makes sense, brother. Respect. How about Wind?
Wind, wind. I was looking at possibly doing somebody that was Puerto Rican.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember because I got this one from another cartoon, and I liked his personality in the cartoon. I think it was called Zalan Showdown with Raimundo, and he was the elemental wind. And I wanted to, I think with him or her, I haven't decided that yet, but I think that's the personality I'm going to go with.
okay. How about Hurricane?
Hurricane, that's just going to be that. To be honest, that's just going to be a female wild rage.
Okay.
She comes in, she wrecks shop, she forgets what she does. Then she gets quiet, and then as she leaves, she slams the door, and like the glass breaks behind her.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
How about Illumination?
Illumination, that one's going to be an interesting one. I've actually thought really hard about that one, and I have a couple leagues that want to do something with like their cause having children or
Oh,
adopting children. So Illumination, I think, will be like would be an offspring of War and Peace.
okay.
Yeah,
How about Spirit?
Spirit. I haven't thought much about Spirit yet.
Got time to do so.
Oh yeah,
How about Vision?
Vision. I have thought about a little bit of that one. I wanted to bring in like someone who was young but was old. So I'm almost thinking like Shaolin monk. How some of them believe in reincarnation, and if you've seen like some shows like Walker Texas Ranger or anything like that where they bring in the Shaolin, it's like the little kid's like, "Hey, I remember you gave me this on my birthday," and he goes, "Yeah, you were 68 then." Or am I going to a completely different route and make someone that's like a Doctor Strange style character where he can just I can see all outcomes. This is the one where I win.
I respect that, yeah. How about Future?
No, I haven't worked on Future yet.
Okay. Soil.
Soil would be like another one that's like a hunter style character, like Andrew Hunter. But I think that one I would go more of a poison ivy based, where she's all about biology and um, using terminology and plants and stuff like that to really get and to really mess with your head. So think of like one of the Iconics when they were in NXT. She was like she wanted to be the poison ivy of WWE, and like her, I think her finisher was even I think her finisher was called poison ivy, or it was just rapid growth or something like that. She hit you with like three suplexes, and the last one was a fisherman. So
Yeah.
I think that's the route I would go.
Okay. How about Metal?
Metal, um, metal. I was going to go with like a huge, just a guy that was like a forger.
Okay. Like from back in the day?
Yeah, one
Okay.
that knew like would take he would melt down his metal. He would make his own gear, just like a Smith and Western or a Smith guy back in the medieval times. And he would forge weapons. So he would basically forge your destruction.
I like that. How about Lightning?
Not really working on lightning yet. Nicole Fisher almost became lightning, but I decided to
Okay.
go electricity with her instead.
Plasma?
Plasma was going to be my mad scientist type guy, where
Ooh,
he if he beat you and busted you open, he collected your blood.
that sounds very interesting. Go for it, man.
And the promoing on that would be great because I could literally say like I own a part of you now.
Yeah, I like that.
Hmm.
Elixir.
No, I haven't worked on Elixir yet.
Poison.
Poison was going to be like another mad scientist type, but it was going to be like one of the Japanese wrestlers, like Asuka or I don't think his name was Tajiri. I almost said Takashi. I was like,
Yeah,
no, Tajiri, where they spit the poison mist.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those type.
And last but not least, healing.
Healing. I think with that one of my one of my dragons is going to get promoted into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Who that is, I don't quite know yet, but it could be War and Peace because he's my Dragon of Light, where he elevates himself to heal all element. Because I do have I have written where friction's going on within the group itself, and EO and Sacred are just kind of letting it happen to see where the chips fall, because
Yep.
they're in charge, but they kind of let them do what they will. But when they have to, they'll come in and snatch that leash, kind of like when you do with a dog. Like, you walk your dog, you let him sniff the tree and whatnot, but sometimes you got to bring him back.
Understood. That's really what I had for your characters. I thank you for telling us about them. And you seem like they also like branch out. You talked about how you have a team with Duvall Hartford. Do you have any other members that have like joined their own like little teams like that or anything?
Yeah. So War and Peace and Devil Dog are a tag team in 3 Dub called Brothers in Arms. And
Yeah.
RCW and Rated R were a faction called Forged in Pain. Um, in C2CW, VIP was the CEO of the House, which was a Vegas style faction. Uh,
Okay.
he that character has evolved a lot, but that is because I can keep the name but change the gimmick, but still keep the personality,
Yeah.
and that's very fun for me. I love the science behind that. Um, Vincent Zander used to have a faction that was called X Factor. He had another faction called the Neighborhood, because that was like his whole gimmick when he was just the Street Fighter was, this is my neighborhood, welcome to my neighborhood. Um, I protect it, and I will also throw you out of it. And
Okay.
I remember coming up with that line. I came up with that line when I was watching Epic Rap Battles of History, and it was like Mr. T versus Mr. Rogers. And that final line was "Get out of my neighborhood." I'm like, I'm using that. Like, I'm gonna work that, but I gotta use that because that's like perfect for him.
Caught your
Bella
eye a bit now.
Rose, Bella Rose was part of Bad, which was Beautiful and Dangerous, which was an all female faction. And then she is now teamed up with VIP as a valet over in WWU, and that's a multiverse VIP. He has nothing to do with the VIP in C2CW, um, because I wanted to do something different with him. He has a different moveset and everything too, and an old school look that I went with. But um, they're together. They're known as the Experience, and he's got a title shot for the United States title over at WWU, and he's been undefeated in singles competition, which has been absolutely fantastic.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And
Any
then as
other?
far as others, no. Most of the time, I really don't go into factions. I was a big on this 2 years ago where I didn't want to be a part of any faction because I wanted to fight everybody.
Okay.
Because and when you go into TNA and WWE and you have like all these factions, they don't fight each other. But in EFEDs, like everybody wants to be a faction, and you don't know how many members you can have. Some places have like a limit, and some don't. So it's like I have no problem fighting everybody. So I was always known as like an independent until it was like the numbers game started playing heavily into things. So then I was like, okay, I can do a few factions, but like Devil Dog, he he comes from a military background. Me, I come from a prison background where I was a correctional officer and worked in prisons for 9 years. So our minds meet both alike, and we're dominating over in RCW. We're working really well together um, in 3 Dub, and that's been a blast. It's reignited a fire into me when it comes down to storytelling.
Wonderful to hear. Welcome, Vexy is in the house.
Oh, me and Vexy have history. We have a
No, you
lot.
were.
We have a lot of history and a lot of great storytelling. And uh, the promo work that we did with Big Rig was a very fun storyline for me.
tagging that man right now, so he'll see it whenever he can. And that's really like the questions I had for your cause particular. If you want, we can move into the stuff that you wanted to talk about with the certain subjects.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Um, you want me to talk to them as characters, or do you want me just to
I,
hit you up?
personally, I would like you to do as you see fit, but I know you wanted to talk
Okay.
about certain subjects regarding like different things like creative genius, writing promos, looking strong without taking away from your opponent, and lying in promos.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Vextra,
uh,
since Vextra's here, she does a lot of lying in her promos. Like she can't tell the truth. I know she's going to hit me up on the side. She goes, "Why'd you do that?" And I'm like, "I'm just making fun of her."
so
No,
I
she's
was
great.
kind of confused what you meant by lying in promos. I wasn't sure if you were like talking like people are legit like lying, or is this like a character thing?
It's a character thing. Um, so like my thing is when it comes to like lying in promos, if if you're facing somebody and you're scheduled for a match, like let's say a week from now or whatnot, so you guys are trying to promo, and like let's say you're a champion, and he goes, you're a champion, but I ain't seen you ever do nothing, and I'm like, you're lying because right now I'm a champion. I've been a champion a week ago, a month ago. I've held numerous titles here. It's like you're trying to stroke your own ego by taking away what I am. I just think there's a different way to go about it. Also, if like I did a storyline with a guy where he stole my car but still tried to be the good guy, and it was like, why? How are you the good guy in this when you stole my car because we bumped into each other at a thing? Like that doesn't make sense to me. Or
What made him steal your car?
me and him were trying to wanting to do a storyline together, and the only thing he could think of was we're at a club, we're talking and whatnot, and then he just decides to steal my car. I'm like, there was no uh, real transition into it, and I was like, what happened? I was like, we need to build this, especially if you're going to try and be the good guy in this. And it's like, it ended up not happening. And the storyline kind of got scrapped after 3 weeks because it just lost its direction. Um, he's gotten way better since then. But that was one of the ones where I was like, you're lying in your promos because you're not telling the truth because you're too busy trying to get over a certain point. But that point loses its traction when you try to go so many different directions with it. Or you tell a guy that's like that has constantly lost, right? So you have a guy in there that says he's the biggest and baddest and this, that, and the other, but he hasn't won a match in 4 months. You're not the biggest and baddest. Then you need to relook at yourself in the mirror and figure out like a redemption arc. Like the guy that stole my car. Later on, we ended up having one of the biggest rivalries in the company because I kept taking everything from him, and it was absolute genius the way we do it because we just put up stipulations. I've taken championships from him. There was a time where they were wanting to bring him into a faction I was a part of, and the owner wanted us to do that. But while we're discussing that, like the faction was fighting about it. Like we don't want him because he constantly jumps ship, and we don't know this, that, and the other. So I was like, you know what? I'll challenge him to a match. If I beat him, he can never join. He cannot join our faction. On top of that, he can't join any faction ever again because I wanted him to stand on his own 2 feet. And I was like, I know he was capable of it, but it's like you're constantly bouncing, so let's build you back up. He loses, can never join a faction again. Then we fight again, and then we fight for our colors because our colors are similar. I was black and purple at the time. He was black and purple. I beat him. He can no longer be purple. And then I took another thing from him and took another thing from him. And then I was kind of getting burned out. And some things were going on in my real life to where this was actually kind of hurting me. So it's like I had to step away from e-fetting for like a good while. And I came back and I was like, dude, we have an opportunity here to like steal the show for like a good 6 months. Because I came back, he didn't like the fact I came back because he became like superstar of the year in this group. And if I was there, he would have never had that. And I was like, you have this whole idea of a redemption arc to where I've taken everything from you. Now it's time for you to get it back. And you're just extremely ignoring it and saying that it never happened, and or this, that, and the other. Or you would have a stipulation you want to follow through with it like a month later. You just like, oh, well, I'm going to do this now because the boss said I could. And it's like, that's where I get where like lying and stuff like that comes into play, because it's like not only you are hurting yourself because you lie in a gimmick, but you also hurt yourself because you can't hold to your own truth. And another situation where I was War and Peace and Chris Chaos, a guy was cutting a promo on me talking about how I got upset at Devil Dog because he couldn't determine who was who between War and Peace and Chris Chaos. And then in his own promo after discussing that, he got the characters mixed up, and I was like, you kind of hurt yourself in that. It's like, if you're going to do something like that, make sure that all aspects are like, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, so you make sense. Because in my personal opinion, if you lose that, you lose the characteristics and the value of what your call brings to the table.
Understood. How do you approach writing promos that involve deception or lies, and what's the key to pulling it off convincingly?
The key to pulling it off convincingly is you don't tell the lie, you spin the truth. In an aspect of it was like in the situation where, we could have had this guy build up his whole redemption arc. He could have went this whole route of like, you took everything from me, but then you left and I built something better, and things like that. Or a champion that you can say like, yeah, you're a champion, you've done great things, but what have you done recently? You're holding on to that title by a thread, and I'm here with the scissors to cut the thread, and things like and things like that. Or you go into a route where it's like, you're you're constantly losing, so now it's like you just need to do a self promo on yourself. And like when I was in the hospital with War and Peace, it's like I constantly did promos on myself, just building myself back up, but never took away from my opponent. But could get into my opponent's head. I remember when me and Hired Gun first started on my redemption arc, and I remember a guy named The Savage put like a hit on me because he was the Hired Gun, so he was the hitman of somebody. Maybe it was The Savage or somebody else, but I beat him, so I took 200 grand and started doing stuff with it, and it was real fun. And he got like so mad, but I never took away from his character being a hired gun. I was like, you just missed your shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way I look at things. It's like you can spin the truth by not lying, but you don't have to tell the full truth. But you still got to give credit where credit's due. I know there's a wrestler that I worked with in XIW, where I worked with in New Breed, XIW, and C2CW named Sam Hain. Me and him can go at each other's throats and deliver some of the greatest storylines, but not destroy us with what we've done, but still destroy us. Like I remember one time it was like, he told me and him were going back and forth, and I said, I beat you last time. What do you think you're going to do to me now? He goes, I'm going to bury you where I bury Luna. I'm going to bury your career. And I was like, damn, that was a strong little thing, along with other stuff. Like I'll hit him on the side, and I do that with others. It's like, if they hit me good, I'll hit them on the side. I was like, damn, that was a good job. That was a real good job. Or they decide to go a different route, and I'll give them credit. Like with Big Rake, we were going a storyline with Vextra and wanting to introduce Vextra to a new character, and I was playing this whole love triangle gimmick with Victor Ian Parker, making Big Rig think that I was doing things off with Vextra, but it wasn't Vextra at all because I never said her name. I always said V. So that's why I was like telling the lie but telling the truth at the same time. And he wanted to go. I kept making the storyline open to what he wanted to do, and he went a completely different direction than I was predicting him to go, and that ended up being one of the most funnest storylines for me.
Heck yeah. How do you handle situations where the audience sees through your character's lies?
I actually haven't come across that yet per se. Now I know
Okay.
in the audience, like in a live thing with your arena, uh, you kind of just make fun of you kind of just turn directions and make fun of the audience. Um, no, I think the only times that's actually happened, uh, I always tell them like, "Oh, you misunderstand where I'm going from, where I'm coming from." So let me paint the picture for you. Let me lead you down the yellow brick road on where I'm coming from with this instead of what you think it is. Um, and that's kind of like the way it works. I remember having a few stories where like I beat the guy and they thought they were acting like they won. I was like, you didn't win. Like, wait, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I still got to look strong. I was like, but you got embarrassed. Like I curb stomped you and dog walked you, and it's like you're acting like you won the match, and it's like no, we see right through that, and then your character loses credibility. Uh, Going back to Vextra and Big Rig, me and Big Rig ended up having a casket match because he's like the route I was expecting him to go was because I always had pictures with VIP and quote unquote Vextra, which I just called V because she was going to go into this character named Viper or introduce Viper, and that's the direction we are going. I was expecting Big Rig because he's a very calm, funny guy. That he's like, "What are you doing?" Like we were all in a faction together. We were all this. It's like you don't even see your pick. You're just whatever. Like you're not going to get a rouse out of me. Instead, he goes this route where he's going to kill me, bury me, put me 6 feet under, and then set my casket on fire. And I was like, yes. And I even hit him on the side. I was like, oh man, we can do something with this. I wasn't expecting this, but we can do something with this. And we had the casket match. He loses. And I remember watching that match. He hit me with a shovel 72 times. I had to rewind it and count. He had me in this corner and he just beat me down 72 times with a shovel and then still lost the match. So I was all telling him, it was like, hey, you can't be like all these other guys where it's like you lost, but you think you got redemption or, you saved the person because you didn't. Um, and it's like, and now for the fact that you hit me 72 times with a shovel, you're this big dude and you still lost, I can now call you all show no go. And that stuck with him and he hated it. But I was like, you can't prove me wrong. I'm not taking away that your character's great, but when you're up against me, you're all show and no go. And that was the end of the storyline. And then we introduced Viper, and then she went off and did her own thing for a while. And then so he had to do a whole thing where he didn't get redemption. And like that was like one of the most truthful promos I've seen from anybody. Was like he doesn't know what to do now. But he found out it wasn't her, so then he kind of went off. But then we went on into a match like later on. I think it was like 2 or 3 months later where he actually did get the win. He's like, yeah, I finally got redemption. I'm like, that storyline's over, but okay, if it makes you feel good, got your redemption. But that storyline was over. But it was just so much fun because it was like I made him go a different direction. I don't know if he was comfortable with, but we had fun with it. And I do my best to do that with everybody. It's like, what direction do you want to go? What's your character? What's your gimmick? And I can do my best to work with it. But like I said, it's got to make sense. Like me and Sam Hain has he's kind of like me. He's got a few characters of himself and they're all together. And I'm one of the few people that can actually go toe to toe with him and where everybody's just on the edge of their seats because we will The way I describe it is we will bleed each other out and still try to fight it. He says like we're like a Western, just constantly shooting it out. Which bullet is actually going to hit us?
It's always good to have fun, especially with the people that you work with.
Oh yeah.
Now, we're going to go to the next subject, which was looking strong without taking away from your opponent. And my first question for that is, how do you craft a promo that makes your character look strong without diminishing your opponent? You kind of described that like with Big Rig and such, and like how you were saying, I like to get a feel of what your character's like so I know what to do.
Mm-hmm. I had as War and Peace in 3 Dub. I had this whole thing with a wrestler named Scott Adams, and me and him would go back and forth with each other. Just it started off fighting against each other, just constantly diminishing each other, and then we fought, and I beat him with my white flag finisher, and he cut a promo. He goes, "You won. I tapped out. I can't believe I tapped out. I'm not tapping out again. We face off again. I'm going to destroy you. Now that I know what I'm working with, you surprised me. So go, because it was a #1 contender match. He goes, now go win that title." I lost the title match. So now he got to go after me. He goes, I got cocky. I got confident. And you took what was mine because I let you take what was mine. Now it's time for me to go get it. And then he went and got it. He got the title match, and I think he ended up winning the match. And I went off to for another title, and then they wanted to merge the titles together, and they had him steal my title, me steal his title in the thing, but we were constantly just going back and forth with what we were going to do to each other without denying what the other person did to us.
Understood.
Yeah, so it was like he's like, you made me wave the white flag. Yes, I surrendered. That's the last time I'm giving in to you. And I would tell him, it's like, hey, we got a triple threat match. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take the C player, and I'm gonna beat him down, and I'm gonna make you tap out. That way you don't have that escape route where you didn't lose the title. I'm gonna make sure I take it off of your body, and you're gonna wave that white flag one more time. And that ended up happening again where I made him tap out, and he was just like, and he went into this whole thing where it's like, I can't believe I tapped out again. And this, and then he ended up changing his character a little bit. And now he's become this like Scotland badass, this England badass. And I'm waiting for our paths to cross again, but right now, storyline wise, it's not looking that way. Right now, I'm with Devil Dog doing something with the tag team division, and we're looking at doing other stuff with factions. But that was one of the ones where it's like he never took away from me what I've done to him, and he never like just gave like the lazy excuse where he's like, oh, that's what they all say, and I'll prove everyone wrong because golly gee, and it's like no, like you lose character, you lose. In my personal opinion, you lose fortitude, and you lose part of your character that way. Not everyone can be the Boy Scout style good guy anymore. We're just not in that generation anymore.
Indeed. What's the key to making your opponent look formidable without taking away from your own character's strength?
Always look at everything as a challenge. Whether you want that to look as fear or not, or adversity. When I have a challenge against a guy that I have never beat, oh, this just happened. You can go check it out on 3Dub. I was in a match against a guy by the name of Jaden Walker. I have always had a hard time beating Jaden Walker. And our paths are crossing again. And I literally went into the facts. It's like, yeah, you can say all you want that when I was Impact champion, I never made an impact. I was champion. I just won the title. So you hurt me there. So I'm like, that doesn't really make sense, but I'll let you have that. You've beaten me in the last 3 matches, so yes, you are correct. I have not beaten you recently. However, have you seen me lately? Have you seen what I'm capable of doing lately? I am laser focused. And the fact that this is a #1 contendership for the international title over at 3Dub, you best believe I'm not going to let anyone interfere. I'm not going to let anyone get involved. And you can bring any weapon you want. This is a different War Machine. This is a different War and Peace. This is going to be different. And I won the match. I was like, oh, crap. I went over. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Now I have a match against Brooks for the International Championship at 3Dub at State of Emergency. And a guy by the name of Evo, Josh Armstrong, did a recap because he plays. What he was doing was breaking down each match and what he's predicting because he's a super fan. And my match with Brooks, he's describing it as stealing the show, but Brooks took the title off one of the longest reigning champions and went to war. So he literally said that I have to kill him to take that title off of him. And I literally said, you can't kill what won't die. To Brooks. And I'm waiting for Brooks to respond to me because I've dropped like 3 promos on him. And I'm waiting for his, like, I have a feeling he's just going to drop one and just go for the throat, take my head off, and that's going to be it. But I'm also writing one right now where I'm declaring, because I am the War Machine over there, and I'm also War and Peace, that I'm declaring war on international waters on international waters, and it will get bloody.
Understood.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. And it's also interesting how like other people that aren't even involved will give you like an idea or a character gimmick. When I first started in OLW, I remember the guy I faced for the world title when we were crowning our first champion. It was a triple threat match. It was me, Eric Newman, and James Love. And Newman won the title. And when he was on a podcast talking about it, he goes, yeah, I faced James Love and a guy and some other guy. And I was like, this dude just gave me my gimmick. So like my whole thing was just, I want to beat you so bad. I'm gonna make you remember my name. And Eric has passed away since then, God rest his soul, but I still give him credit, even when I was inducted into the OLW Hall of Fame, that he created my first gimmick of making people remember who I am. And I've always taken that with me into everything I do. It's like, you're only here for so long now, whether it's a few months or a few years. In e-fetting and in life, it's like the whole point is, making sure you remember your legacy carry on.
Indeed. Well, may your friend rest in peace. God rest his soul. Welcome, Uncle Oatis. Welcome, sir. How do you handle situations where your opponent's promo overshadows yours?
Oh, I love those situations. It's very interesting when you say it like that, because I could look at a promo and be like, he didn't really say anything. But everybody else is like, oh, he went after you. And I'm like, but what did he say? Yeah, he had a badass opening and song, but when you look at the idea of what he said, he didn't really say anything. So I think that's like the hard part when it comes down to like video promos and stuff like that. It's like people can see you being overshadowed, but you can see it as nothing. But when you do see one that is like completely overshadowed, oh, that becomes so much fun, because it's like, okay, I have somebody that's on a different level. It's time for me to elevate my game. And like with James Black, we were talking about doing a different promo style for Chris Chaos. So I started turning off the lights. I wore a mask. I used lightsabers to change the demeanor of the room, and it ended up working really well. I would do things where I would just stand in front of the camera and have a guy talking behind me, and that was that.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw David on here. Hey, David. Oh, he said bye. Okay.
Well, welcome, David. What advice would you give to those that need it, that need help?
Be open-minded and be okay with a gimmick change. But that doesn't mean that you have to completely give up on the character altogether. I know with Victor Ian Parker, when he first came on, he was the street racer style gimmick, and then I started winning championships, and then he became. I turned him into that to more like a VIP club style person. So I turned his whole character into the experience. And then in C2CW, he won 5 singles championships and held them all at the same time. So then the fans and like the locker room were building me into like this ego, which I love because me and Izzy, back when she was in there, we would fight about this. She goes, "You got 3 championships. Why do you need another one?" I said, "Because no one's giving me credit." She goes, "What do you mean? You got the Extreme title, you got the uh, uh, the Coastal Continental title, and you got the World title. What more do you need?" I said, "No one's giving me credit for being a three belt holder. They're all saying like, well, this guy did this guy did that." So then I got a 4th one. And I was like, now I got 4. What up now? And everyone's still not giving me credit. Like I think at that time Big Rig had 4, but one of them was the tag team titles. So he only had like half of one. That's my story, and I'm sticking to that. If Vextra's still here and listening, but so I had 4, and me and Izzy would continue going on and on about it, and then I got my 5th championship, which was what we called the roulette title, and it was just like it was our version of the 24/7 title by wheel spin. So like whoever the champion was, a random wheel spin determined the opponent. I won the wheel spin at that time, and I won the title, so I had 5. And no one had 5 titles but me ever. And so then they created me as an arrogant, egotistical a-hole, and I loved it because it was something I was so not used to doing. And then I created the final boss character. And to this day, I still say this. I created the final boss character before The Rock did.
I was
But
about to ask if that's what you were getting at.
it wasn't by much. Like I created the final boss character in November, and then in January, The Rock was classifying himself the final boss, and I was like, man, my whole thing was like video game related because like literally I had 5 championships, so if you wanted a title, you had to go through me. We had a pay-per-view called Santa Slay, and I was like in every men's match because I was the champion, and that was fun. Then from there, I went to Warrior VIP where I joined a faction called Aegis Warriors, and then I left for personal reasons. And then when I came back, I'm now the CEO of the house and other things like that. So you can still be your character and make little changes to him. Just be open to the mind and don't just crap on the idea. Like give it a shot, give it a whirl. I know with War and Peace, he was just War and Peace, and then he became the War Machine, and then when I wanted to go a little heel, he was the controller of Chaos, and then he became Chaos Controlled, which really worked well, and that's where I came up with the Chris Chaos thing as well. Was he was Chaos Controlled, and here I am bringing in this brother that no one knows about, who is Chaos, so he can control Warren and things like that. So when it comes down to that, always be open and don't just cut off ideas. Don't let them take complete control of your character, but always be open to possibilities because they might just be looking at the way you present yourself, the way your sentence structure is, the way you do this, the way you do that, and who knows what you can do with it. Everything's up to you to what you can do with. We can give you all the tools in the world. We can write your promos for you. Shoot, AI can write your promos for you, and I actually like the fact that people use AI because I'm getting more and more people involved in it because they're not afraid to be in front of the camera. They're, you know, they have an idea but they don't know how to make it across, so they can type their idea into AI and it'll work it for them, and they can make the changes there. The images I see, I'm like, dude, these are great. And I love the fact that technology has been helping out the eFed world, and I love every minute of it.
Indeed, technology is very much advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next subject you would like to talk about are writing promos. Now, what's your approach to writing promos that grab people's attention and leave a lasting impression?
There's multiple promos. There's multiple promo styles. You can go with the promo style where like you're the biggest badass in the yard. I like to write promos with people that I know that can do stuff with. Also, if I have nothing going on, I'll write an open promo just to see who wants to bite. Um, but I don't do like an open challenge. I'll just make it out like I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see who is ready to like. I had one where his whole gimmick was he didn't have opponents. He had offerings. He had people that were sacrificing themselves. So the company was literally bringing him his next sacrifice. And if I didn't have nothing going on, I'd be like, who is this company going to sacrifice to me next? Oh, you went away. No. Oh, there you are.
Yes, I'm back. I respect that. How do you balance aggressive and confidence with respect for your opponent in a promo?
That all depends on the guy. That all depends on who I'm facing, whether male or female. Um, you, for me, it's like I have to see your work, and I also don't want to see like the same thing over and over again. Like there's a difference between cutting your catchphrase, and there's a difference between everything's the same thing. Um, this goes back to what I was talking about, where a guy can be on a 4-month losing streak, but still claim he's the biggest and baddest. And it's like, but you're not. So it's like
Yeah,
you can still be who you are, and but you gotta learn to evolve, and you gotta learn to uh, accept what is happening, um, and things like that.
well said. Can you yourself share some tips on how to craft a compelling narrative to a short promo?
Practice it before you air it. Make sure you know
Okay.
what you want to say, so you're not standing there going, Um, I know when it comes to my promos, I can drop a promo that's 30 seconds long. I've been known to drop promos that are 30 minutes long. Um,
Okay.
but I've also had the experience to be in front of a live audience, so I know how to feed off of a crowd. But when it comes to being compelling and all that, get your point across, but make the point make sense. Don't just like, oh, I got these bullet points. Let me just read them off like a list. Things like that hurt. Also, do your best not to lie in a promo, especially if it's if it's after a match. I had a guy that I was facing against, and his promo beforehand was, "You keep your people in the back, I'll keep my people in the back, and we'll have our match." Well, he enters the ring first, and his partner's with him. So I come out, and I have a guy with me, and then he loses the match. But then he says, "Hey, I told you to keep your people in the back, and I keep my people in the back." And I'm like, "Did you not watch the match? You came out first. Like, so what kind of scheme were you trying to scheme?" So it's like you
Yeah.
got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to little details like that, and then also in like an after match promo, because you have to build the match and the after thought. Pay attention to what happened in the match so you can actually pull that into it. Yeah, like what Vextra says, a good match can a good promo can recover you from a match, or it can take you into a different direction. Um, but yeah, that's all. That's what it is. It's like go into your match especially if it's an post match, and break it down. Like, where did you go wrong? What happened here? What happened there? Even admit you get lucky. I had a guy that like constantly destroyed me, and then everybody in the audience was like, "Oh, he's playing with his food," and then I ended up beating him to where the um, the announcer was on camera, and his eyes were as big as like that one guy when the Undertaker lost his undefeated streak at WrestleMania. And so
The guy with the
I cut
big
a
bulging
promo, and I was
eyes.
like, yeah, I cut a promo on the guy, and I was like, you you took me for granted, and I didn't need to go 5 minutes. I didn't need to go 8 minutes. I just needed to go 3 seconds. That's all it took. I held you down for 3 seconds, and then I got the hell out of Dodge, type deal. Also, like, going back to the Vextra Big Rig promo, as like I told him, it's like he can't say that he won or did any of this because he lost. I also went in there and I talked about the 72 shots with the shovel, and then giving him the nickname All Show and No Go. And that's another characteristic I've always had is if I can throw something at you, you can either make it your own or I can let it destroy you. I did that with one person. She was all in yellow and pink, but I could never understand what she was like really saying, and so I kept calling her Lemonade Stand, and she hated it in character and whatnot. I don't know if she liked it outside or not, but she wore those colors because she was like representing stuff that the names are too long for me to pronounce. But like I always got onto her about like, oh, here we go, Lemonade Stand. And I remember her having a match with Vextra, and I was like, oh, so we got the Girl Scout with her cookies versus the Lemonade Stand. Like, this is going to be great. And the funny thing about it was, these two were cutting promos on each other left and right in the locker room. And I hit that, and uh, the girl that I kept calling Lemonade Stand went after me, and Vextra just stayed out because she was just like, I don't need to get involved in this. I just need to win the match. And that was the thing. Um, it was great because even someone like Vextra and others that I worked with, they know what I can do. They know what I'm capable of, but they also know like I'm trying to make people better. And the best way you can do that, in my personal opinion, is don't don't light punch. Like you can throw out jabs and all that, but if you really want to know, if you think that they're capable of more, go for an uppercut and let's see how they recover. It's awesome.
Welcome Zachary Tyler Stevenson, who's known as Zach on the EFED promotions.
Me and him are actually a tag team together. Uh,
Oh,
Zach and VIP are known as the High Rollers. Right now, we're running a storyline where VIP is in a coma. We lost the tag team titles by a mystery attacker, and he is now running the house while VIP is recovering.
okay.
Yeah, and Ivy Taylor is in the house, and she kind of doesn't like the way Zach is running the house. So we're going to see what happens there. And if you're interested in the storyline, you can catch us on at C2CW, Fatal Flood on YouTube, Suplex Society, and Supernova Shakedown on YouTube for that. But that storyline I think is going to be fun once we get to our climatic end, which I'm thinking is going to be at third chapter.
Understood.
Yeah.
How do you decide what to reveal and what to hold back on in a promo?
Oh, that's fun. Um, I hold back a lot in my promo because I always wait to see what the rebuttal is. Um, because a good rebuttal can make you or break you. Uh, in that, um, Zach has done it to me back when we were facing off against each other. Uh, he he hit me hard with my VIP character because he brought up Bella Rose, and I was like, because she wasn't a part of the group no more and all that, and she's off doing other things per se. But I hit him on the side. I was like, "Damn man, you know how to kick a guy in the balls." and things like that. So when it comes down to hiding stuff and doing things like that, it's like I hide a lot because I want to know what the rebuttal is going to be. Like if you which way are you going to go with it, and then I'm going to do that. Also with storyline, uh, we live in a day and age where you know kids got the attention span of like 7 minutes, or like a goldfish has an attention span, so everyone just kind of want to wraps up a storyline. And it's like I come from a generation where storylines would last 3 to 6 months. I had a storyline with Hired Gun that we talked about earlier. That storyline lasted 4 years.
Damn.
Yeah, and our rivalry is still, I think, one of the best ones over at the New Breed, um, for the fact of its longevity. And the thing is too about like a good rivalry with a good storyline, it doesn't. We don't always have to keep going week after week. Um, it's just when our paths cross again, it's like we can bring up all the past we want, and it's always good to talk to your opponent about what direction you want things to go. Like, what do we want to show? What do we not want to show? Um, who do we want to get involved? Who we don't want to get involved? That's another thing I have a problem with in most e-feds nowadays. It's getting better, but you still have your people where it's like um, if you don't uh, it, how do I put it? If you're not involved in the storyline, you're trying to get in. Um, like playing the whole scared card annoys me.
Whole scare card. What do you mean?
So like I'm in a storyline, like I don't know who's on here. I think Zach. Let's say I'm in a storyline with Zach, or I'm in a storyline with you, right? And
Okay.
we're reaching our climax, but there's another guy with another storyline just that isn't picking up any kind of traction or gasoline or fire, and he wants to come in on our storyline, and we're like, no, you're not a part of that. Get out of it. Like you're not involved. He goes, oh, you're just scared, and then tries to weasel his way in. I've seen a few people in a couple of e-feds do that with title shots. I've seen a few people do that with uh, just to get into a storyline so they felt important and things like that. And that just annoys me. It's just like like that's your go-to is like, oh, you're scared, and it's like, no, you're just not involved. Because when I came from in the indies, if like I'm working with a champion or I'm champion and I'm working with another guy, and this guy over in the yonder is upset because he thinks he's better than me, he thinks he's this, he thinks he's that, but I'm champion, he wants that spot, and tries to weasel his way in, the boss fires him. He's
Okay.
like, he gives you a warning, like, hey, get in line, it's not your time yet, uh, or they send him on the road.
Yeah. What's the most challenging promo or story you've ever been a part of, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Ooh, the one in three
If there's
dub
been
where I
like
was
a
my
few or just one, like if there's more, like if you want to tell us about one, that's up to you. But if there's more, go on about it.
okay. In 3 Dub last year, the hardest one for me was when I was introducing my twin brother, because James Black wanted Chris Chaos to be War and Peace, and
Okay.
we had to figure that out. So what it was I thought I was playing War and Peace for like this entire time, and he wanted to bring in my brother, like a twin brother. Undertaker to Kane is what he told me about, and he goes, but we need him to be War and Peace until this day. So he's taking you over. And I was like, okay. And he wanted me to do it at one event. I said, no, let's go farther back. Let's just say that I never came back because I was gone for a while. And we wrote it off where I had like a soldier injury because I went for the United States title against a guy named Hunter Deal. And he hit me with this, like, he calls this move called the Rapture, and it's this double hammer thing. And he hits me with it, and I go flying. And then I wasn't on the show for a while, and so we just played it off like I was injured. And then I came back. Uh, I got a number one contender shot. I got a title opportunity. I started winning these championships, and then James Black hits me with this idea, and I was like, let's go farther back. Like let's say I never came back, and it's been Chris Chaos this whole time. So then I had to change the, I had to slowly change the War and Peace character, which ended up working really well because there was a guy that I worked with named Dragos, and he was calling himself the People's Champion, and I was calling myself the People's Champion. And so they did a vote, and he won the vote, which it becomes favoritism, but it is what it is. You run for high school elections and stuff; it's always favoritism. But so we have a match where it's People's Champion versus People's Champion. He goes over and he gets the title shot and all that. And then I turned it into the people turn their back on me, stuff like that, and I was slowly changing. And then at Big Event 9, it was as Chris Chaos was coming up the ladder to win the national championship. The lights go out. It comes back on as War and Peace standing toe-to-toe with Chris, and throws Chris off the ladder. And that was one of the hardest things for me to do because I had to cut promos for both characters at the exact same time, but had to be completely different and make people think that I was the same person up until the big reveal happened. And that was one that was very hard to do personally. Other ones I've had, it's very hard to do a storyline that's completely one-sided, where it's either the person you're going against doesn't say anything or just doesn't know where to go with it, or they're all just one-dimensional. Or like one-dimensional, I mean, it's like, well, you can say whatever you want. We'll get in the ring and prove it to me. Or they just say whatever. What you hit them with a whole mountain of stuff that they can easily do something great with, and they just like, well, everyone said that before, and I'm just going to prove you all wrong again. I'm like, you're not building anything. Like, you're not. You're just kind of on cruise control. And in some cases, that may be creative genius on their part, where they don't quite know where to go. But that's where you start talking to your opponent about where do we want to go with this? What's our end game? And what can I do to make myself better? I know when I worked with Sam Hain and XIW and stuff, we would actually write our promos to each other before we launched them. That way we knew if it was good enough to where it hit us hard, but we were also getting ready for our rebuttal. And it was great. I also remember another one I did with Jason Dixon. It was a guy that I never wrestled before with, but me and him promoted each other so hard, so good, even though it was like really difficult, that they put us to the main event. And that was the thing. So it was like, I felt like he wasn't really saying anything, but he had like such clout and this history of being like a top guy in other places that I was still building myself up. But when I brought in what was it? I brought in a blood bank truck in my promo, so he could get his transfusion, so he doesn't die after the match. Like, the guy loved it so much that he put us in the main event. I'm like, this is one of the hardest creative directions we had to go with because I wasn't quite getting nothing. But he was at that elevation where I wasn't. He didn't have to. He was the mountaintop. He was this. He was that. And like, I wasn't there yet. And then also another thing that I find hard, and this is with me, it's like when you don't know your spot on the card. Anybody that comes in new is like, oh, we're here to win championships. We're here to win that. I'm like, of course you are. Of course you are. You're playing in a wrestling league. You're there to win a championship. It'd be the same thing if you're in a football league. You want to win the Super Bowl. Hockey, you want to win the Stanley Cup. So you're there to win championships, but don't think that you just walk in the locker room and demand one. This isn't, you're not a John Cena. You're not an AJ Styles. Even though you're well known in other ones, when you come here, you're not well known to us yet. And that's a hard thing to work with too. When you're working with people, they come in and they think they just need to be given everything. And there are cases where I was responsible for that too, when I was young. But with everything, when you get older, you get wiser and you bring on more wisdom. But and you see that it's just they become very hard to deal with because it's like I don't have a shot. I don't have a shot at this title yet. I'm like, you've been here 2 weeks. Hate to say it, but that's the way the world works.
Yeah, understood. And the last subject you would like to talk about is creative genius. What is it that you would like to talk about with creative genius?
I would like to see. Um, I don't know if you will ever see this, but I like to see a day where like everybody is different to where they're not backing off of anybody. And what I mean by that is like they're not strictly like ripping off a TNA character, a WWE character, or a Ring of Honor character or anything like that. You can be inspired by them. Like I said, VIP was inspired by MVP. But if you're like a character and your whole thing is like Penta's Cero Medio, and you're saying all that, I'm like, yeah, I would love to see more creative genius where you're not just ripping off that character. Like instead of like zero fear, be absolute fear, or be something else. Like instead of zero medio, your AF, which has a lot of different meanings and things, but it's like you're not about having zero fear. You're about instilling absolute fear onto your opponent. Um, And then I see like a lot, like they try to be like Bray Wyatt, or they try to be Undertaker, or they try to be Cody Rhodes and stuff like that. I'm like, I would love to see people get their ideas from that, but not completely copy it. Because I see so many, like you look at the community creations and you look at things, and it's like there are so many great looking cause, but they're behind them. I just see like, oh, this big dude. Okay, you don't need to be acting like Mark Henry. You need to be acting like you. There was a movie about Paige called Fighting with My Family. It was her story.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it said, like, you don't need to be the next to this person. Don't need to be the next to that person. You just be the next you. And I would love to see more of that. Because
Okay.
the creative genius on the look on everything. Like I love the science of creating. Um, I think that's why I create so many to begin with, because I love the different aspects and the different looks of it. But I also like what are their tendencies, what are their attitudes, what are this, and that was the easiest thing for me when I came up with the idea of element and gave everyone their own element, because with that it was easy for me to create a personality around that, to where I wasn't really necessarily starting from scratch, but I was also being original in an aspect.
Yes. Understandable. And thank you for that. And my next set of questions regard what you were telling me about when it came to you wanting to build an eFed company. If you'd like to talk about that, I have some questions lined up for that.
Yeah, we could talk about that. I know it's still in the works on paper because I don't know if I have the equipment to do it like I want to. But yeah, I was wanting to. I'm looking at starting one, but I'm looking at wanting to do it differently than I've seen before.
You said you wanted to start out in a high school gym, which is pretty grassroots. What made you choose this setting for it?
I wanted an eFed that literally started from the ground up. And I also come from like the indie mind spec, where it's like we train inside of a storage building. We train inside of a garage. We're cutting promos standing next to a tree. We cut promos like what we're doing right now. Um, our gear isn't like WWE Flash. We don't have pyro. We don't have this. We don't have that. Like I really want, like people say like, oh, I'm an OG here or I'm an original here. I want them to be like, can we actually see it to where we go and watch this company build up, and for fans to see and it's like, oh wait, look what we were doing. I have this whole idea of currency with viewership and subscribers, to where once I hit a certain mark, I start changing things, because then I got people behind it. So it's like, okay, obviously now we're quote unquote making money, so now I can pay for better equipment. The way I had my ring built, was there was no mats on the floor. It was just like a tarp, so I don't scratch the high school basketball court for the who do we have over here? The Antelopes or whatever the high school mascot is, wherever we're at. Um, but I wanted that. And then once we started getting more, it was like, okay, now we can do something with this. It's like, okay, now your characters can have pyro. Now you guys can do this and just watch them build. And it was going, and my idea for it was like people that didn't feel quite comfortable in a whole EFED surrounding, just like jumping into one that's already been well established, or maybe they're just tired of the politics and just want a place where it's like, hey, I'm established, but like I'm kind of on my way out. So like when we were we were talking with some people that they do like these mentorships with WWE and whatnot, where they're bringing an indie wrestler over. So the thing is, like, you live in the indies, you die in the indies. It's like in between, you get to go to like TNA or AEW or WWE, and then when you're done, if you're lucky enough, you get to retire there. If not, you go back to the indies and then you retire there.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when it does come to the interactive currency aspect, will viewers have an influence on matches and storylines?
They could. Um, as far as like the way the storyline goes, I'm not quite there yet. I don't think so. I think now with where the match goes, they could have a thing with that. Like if the people are like really behind a certain person, like let's say I have like these are the kind of gimmicks I'm looking for. I'm looking for people like in streetwear where they don't have like the big flash or they're not completely covered. It's like you got to most of their wrestling clothes come from like Hot Topic or stuff like that. So then like you have like a girl named Los Angela, and she's dressed like she comes from like Dodger Stadium as a fan. So she's wearing jeans and like a baseball jersey and stuff like that. And then if they really get behind her, it's like, okay, she starts moving up. Like she's no longer opening, she's now closing. And if they play off where they like, oh, they want to see her against this person, we can do that. Now, does that turn into a rivalry? We don't know. We've got to see how the match plays out. I've been in matches that have lasted 15 minutes. I've been in matches that last 7 seconds. It all just depends on what happens.
Understood.
But as far as the currency goes, it's basically I'm going off of like how many subscribers I get to how many people watch. So if I have like, let's say I put like a thing, it's like, okay, I'm gonna start my first show, and then once I get to 50 subscribers, I'll change this, or if once I get 20 subscribers, I'll change this. Like I make the joke, and I've talked to a couple of them about it. Not everybody, because it's still on paper. That my medical staff is the high school nurse that has probation hours, so she needs to do community service, so she's volunteering here. And then if you wrestle on my ring, you might end up with staph infection or some kind of sickness because my ring is like held together by duct tape and chewing gum.
Yeah.
But just even like if I get the followers and all that, because they get to see something grow, it's like, oh, the ring got updated. Oh, we hit a milestone. Oh, look at this. We're moving out of the high school gym. We're now at like a Comic-Con, or we're now at like a bingo hall. And to see that grow, and it's like the fans can come with me, the team can come with me, and things like that.
So there is a goal to go into a bigger venue to create a specific kind of community around the EFED community, right?
Right. But I want to start something from the ground up that actually looks like it came from the ground up, and not just like, oh, I'm starting a company, like, my venues are as big as WrestleMania or just like a Raw and SmackDown. It's like, no, I kind of want to start something that's I have never seen done before. And if you start seeing it done, they took it straight from us. So we're putting the stamp on that right now.
How do you plan on handling the technical aspects like production and quality and streaming?
That's the stuff I'm working through right now. Right now, a PlayStation, so I stream it through that. And then I have like an editing thing. I've seen some EFEDs on Twitch and stuff where they just stream the card. I've seen others where they do voiceover work. They have backstage segments. we did one story that I was in. They did a whole thing where they edited handcuffs into the screen to where it looked like I was handcuffed to the barricade, so I couldn't even help my partner in a tag match. I was like, "How'd
Mm,
you guys do that?" And he goes, "We have editing equipment," and so they edited handcuffs in on me, and then they took control of my guy while the AI was just handling him, and so I couldn't move. And I was like, that's an interesting way to tell a story. So I'm working through all the. Long story short, I'm working through all of it because I don't want to do it and then have to stop because I just don't have the equipment. Um,
that's okay.
so if I just stream through my PlayStation and then go through my editing tool through there, my show might be short or it might have to be in parts because I can only
Okay.
edit so long. But that's the idea. It's like some of my cause that I've left other eFeds that are going into mine or that will go into I was thinking about calling it ACW, which was or AWC, which is going to be a wrestling company, until I
Okay.
um, come up with what other people aren't using, and then maybe it's like okay, we're being rebranded, and you guys get to witness that, or maybe I have them vote on it, like hey, what do you guys think about these names, or throw up an idea, and we might use it. And things like that. I'm also looking at with 2K26 with the MyRise, what I can unlock there and whatnot. Because I remember in 2K25 with MyRise, you can unlock the Comic Con arena and you can
Mm,
unlock all these other arenas, but you had to go through MyRise and do it. And that was fun. So I want to see what I can unlock there before making any kind of like major decision on what direction I can go and how I can go about it.
understood.
Yeah. And then also with the 2K26 My Rise, if I'm able to stream that, I want my viewers to be responsible for the cause. I think this year I want to be using War and Peace and Candy Holiday or Hope Summers. I haven't quite decided yet, but you guys will be able to throw the images into community creations and tag me in them under let's just call it MR26
Okay.
uh, VIP. And if I like your images, I'll put them on my call, and we'll run it. We'll run part of the storyline with it, and see if your stuff makes it.
Understood. How do you plan on handling potential challenges or conflicts that arise from the viewer-driven currency aspect?
Learn to admit defeat.
Okay.
If it becomes too much of a challenge, I gotta learn to admit defeat and not just be like, oh, what am I doing here? Um, One of the things I did with when I was running UXW, I let a another guy that was running another company help me out, and then he kind of just took it over.
Yeah.
I no longer had real decisions in what I was doing to where he didn't even want me putting it on my channel. He wanted me putting it on his channel. And I was like, I kind of just don't want to do this no more. And that's put a big sour taste in my mouth.
I don't blame you.
Yep.
Are there any specific wrestling influences or styles you're drawing from this to start this project from small to big?
Indies.
Indies? Okay.
Yeah. I took a big step from like watching wrestling and all that, and I came across a show called Lucha Underground. It was on
Lucha,
Netflix.
lucha. I love
Yeah.
Lucha Underground.
And I saw it on Netflix because I didn't know it was on El Rey or all that. But they had like 2 seasons on Netflix, and I was watching it. And the way they told the story, but it was a very small arena. I was like, that's interesting. That would be
But they did a
fun.
lot of crazy stuff for that small arena. They utilized that arena.
Oh yeah, they maximized their minimum, and I would that's where I came up with the idea where it's like you're going to see minimum become maximum because I think in season 3 of it, he had a brand new temple and a brand new layout and everything like that because it caught so much traction.
I think you're right. I think it was season three because I think the first two seasons were known as like the iconic seasons. Like not
Mm-hmm.
saying anything the three or four. I liked all four seasons, but the two first two seasons were definitely like the top tier seasons.
Oh yeah. But
But
then
yeah.
I started noticing like there was a lot of people that came from Lucha Underground that are now they're now in like WWE and AEW. Like, I mean, you
And
know
there's
the
people that were supposed to be there that never actually got to start there. Like Bad News Barrett was supposed to be Stu Bennett there.
yeah, but like I'm talking like your Chavo Guerreros and your Rey Mysterios that went down there, but I'm talking about who was there that came up. Like it took me a while to realize that Ricochet was Puma, um,
Shit.
Killshot was Strict Swerve. Uh,
And Chavo Guerrero was a head producer for Lucha Underground. That's why he did that retirement match where if he lost, he would retire from there.
right, and then you had Conan in there who was like the voice of Puma. We all know
Because he
about.
also was running AAA, which is where a lot of their wrestlers came from, was AAA.
Mhm. And then you had Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
and then a few others, and like I didn't even know like Chelsea Green, because when you look at
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea Green as Reclusa, it's like wow, you're like completely different. Same thing with Io Sky. It's
Uh-huh.
like
I was
when
about
she
to
was
say.
over there, she was just that's what gave me the idea too. Is like when you're in like a place like that, your gear does not look like gear really. Like she was just in black leather. Like she
Did
had a
you know
black
Son of
halter top
Havoc
and
is Matt Cross?
yeah, and then other things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's like okay, that's what gave me the idea for this style of idea. And the way Lucha told stories, it's like it got me like, man, I want to watch wrestling again. And then I found out they got canceled because they it was like over $100,000 an episode to
Uh-huh.
air, but it was like their number one show, and it's like why are you guys not wanting to produce your number one show? But I get it.
It was topping WWE at times.
Yeah, but now with like
But
you
with
have
any company,
TNA.
like especially the big time companies, I feel like it's hit or miss nowadays. That's just my opinion with the big stuff.
Well, and I agree with you to that extent, but seeing things with like WWE and AEW and TNA is starting to make a comeback, but that's with their partnership with WWE. But now you have an alternative, which is now starting to make their product a little better. Now, the sad thing is, like when you look at the backstage stuff, what's going on with WWE, it's like what is in their control and what isn't anymore, and I think that's what's really hurting them.
Also, I just think Triple H doesn't have the mind of Vince McMahon. Just saying.
No, he doesn't. But that'd be the same thing as like Shane McMahon doesn't have the mind of Vince McMahon. Stephanie
He
McMahon doesn't have the
doesn't.
mind.
Nobody ever will because Vince knew how to promote. His son-in-law is Vince knew how to promote. Triple
Mhm.
H, I just don't think grasped it enough.
True, but would Vince McMahon grasp it enough in this day and age? Because like Vince McMahon is
I
prime
mean, the dude
great.
knew how to promote. That's what I'm trying to point out. He knew how to promote. Triple H, he kind of gives us too much for too little. There are things in matches we don't need, but he's like, no, go do that. Or he'll do stuff with the roster, and it's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh no, that part I agree with wholeheartedly. But I'm also looking at like I saw a thing with John Cena where he was talking about how the young guys think they have to wrestle like this and the old guys don't, and it's like he has to deal with that. And like the 7 points of a match, I think hurts because everyone now is just trying to get their stuff in instead of telling a proper story.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
like I get it though, because like in some cases it's like Stone Cold. What do you expect? You expect stunners and him drinking beer. That's all his stuff. But you have like wrestlers now; they have like 19 things. Like I think one of the things that hurt Kevin Owens the most is he wanted to do like 54 moves in a match, different moves, because he was like stuck with the whole John Cena way of the way they were doing things, where it's like the 5 moves of doom, where they only have like 7 moves. It was like very early on, Kevin Owens, even though he was really good to look at and watch, he was every match he always tried to do 56 to 70 moves that were different. I'm like, not every match needed that.
That is true. That is true. But he
Mm-hmm.
also is one of those wrestlers that grew up on the indies, which I think the indies is really what's going best right now, is better than the bigger companies at times.
Oh, especially with Killer Cross becoming MLW champion. And then that
Ooh.
text message from Paul Heyman, like that's got everyone buzzing. And we don't know what that message was. That could just been him just saying, "Hey, good job, congratulations." But now everyone's like, dude, the vision's all falling apart. Like, is he coming back? And the
Yeah,
fact that he
but
ain't saying nothing about it, I'm like, dude, he just put more stock into himself by not saying a damn thing.
but my friend pointed out something to me, as somebody I consider my brother. He pointed out that he was right about Karrion Kross when it came to him not being a top guy, because
Mm-hmm.
Vince did not see Karrion Kross as a top guy, and Vince knew how to spot talent. There's no doubt
Mm-hmm.
about it. But Triple H has a somewhat of an eye for talent, but it looks like more of the times it's NXT that usually has like the good stuff, but then like when they come up to the main roster, it's always hit or miss with the people that come up. It's like, oh, this guy's gonna get pushed to the moon like he was in NXT, but it's like, oh shit, he just buried him. Like, look how much times he buried LA Knight. Look what he's doing to Javon right now. I'm hoping for the best for Opa Femi, but I will believe it when I see it.
Well, you can say the same thing when the Shield came out. The Shield came out hot, and then they kind of like fizzled for a little bit, but then they got hot again.
Depends on how you look at it, but I guess like when they were going around, I think that they've always had like a good start. In my opinion, I can't really say I saw like a bad thing. Where do you think they went bad as the Shield the first time?
So when the Shield first showed up, they were wearing turtlenecks and all that, and were supposed to be CM Punk's faction. And then they realized that they were
Supposedly CM Punk's fashion.
right.
Supposedly.
So if that would have kept going, I think it would have fell flat on their face. But when they were heels, they were good. They were good as heels. And then they started turning babyface, and that whole match that they had with the Wyatt fam, when they went up against CM Punk 3-on-1 and they lost to CM Punk, I think that hurt them. Then when they went up against the Wyatt family and lost, I think that hurt them. But then when they went against Evolution and started helping out Jerry the King Lawler, they caught that fire again. And then when they broke up, right when they were right when they were scorching hot, all three of them ended up having successful careers right there. But there was a point where they were just like, are they just another faction on cruise control?
That is
Until
true.
until they were like going up against the Authority, going up against Evolution revamped and all that, and then Seth being the one pulling the trigger and not Dean Ambrose that everyone was kind of predicting because he's the loose cannon. And then when everyone was predicting the Shield triple threat that Dean Ambrose won, because I had so many people like they're not going to put the title on Dean Ambrose, and then they put the title on Dean Ambrose. It was like, oh man, like that was interesting because everyone thought it was going to be Roman Reigns or Seth, and then they put it on the guy no one predicted, and then it catapulted all three of them because then Roman and Seth fought for the new belt, and then
That is true.
that
Yeah.
fruit roll up title that everyone hated, Seth made that mean something.
Yes, I do see what you're saying, but we also have to remember that Seth was technically the first one out of the Shield to hold the WWE World Title when he won that Money in the Bank, which he cashed in against Brock and Roman. And Roman, the thing was with him, after he got put out of the Shield, but everybody already saw that he was literally built to be the next John Cena. There's no doubt
Oh yeah.
about that.
Well, that
Like
was the thing
every
too. Like,
generation, we needed a John Cena, a Hulk Hogan, somebody like that. But then we have Roman Reigns. Even when The Rock, like when he won the Royal Rumble, everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to win that Rumble. When he won, boo throughout the audience. Even The Rock was like, respect this man. But The Rock was getting the respect, but Roman was still getting the boos. Now, and Roman went on for a couple years as just like trying to be a face, and then they had the whole leukemia thing. That's not easy to go through. I understand that. And then he left, but then when he came back as a heel, he reinvented himself because he literally came in as himself, how he was in real life. Those
well,
are
we
some of
just
the greatest characters when you have characters that come in as extensions of their real life selves, and he's like, acknowledge me, I'm the one. Now, me, even when Roman Reigns in the Shield, I've always liked all three members of the Shield. I've never had a time that I hated them. Like, even before they came to WWE. Like, Seth Rollins was Tyler Black on the indie scene in ROH and such. Dean
oh yeah.
Ambrose was killing it as John Moxley and CCW, all these hardcore companies. Then he comes to WWE, but Vince never liked Dean out of all three of them. He liked Roman, he liked Seth. He did not like Dean.
Oh yeah, I know that. But what I'm also getting at too, and we discussed this, is like you have to evolve your character. At that
Exactly.
point, I felt bad for Roman Reigns because everyone started realizing like, oh, they're going to spoon feed us.
Yeah,
Our next person we're
we all
supposed
knew
to,
he was supposed to be John Cena, and
huh?
I was like, I know that, but like, there's something in this guy that I could see being good. And then when he came back as the tribal chief, I was like, there we go, Roman. That's what you needed.
Because he got real to himself, and that's the thing. When it comes
Hmm.
down to a character, you got to be kind of real to yourself. But at that point, when Roman was being forced down our throats as that baby face, whether you liked him or didn't, because I liked him as well,
Exactly.
everybody was starting to realize it's like, oh, the company tries to spoon feed us our heroes, and they started thinking like, we got it with Hulk Hogan, we got it with Ultimate Warrior. The only person I can actually say we did not get that with was Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that's because everything was changing, and they had to
Well,
go
that was
that route.
also the Attitude Era at that
That
time too,
was, but
where that
remember
was like
he was
hardcore.
ringmaster. He was
Yeah,
ringmaster, and then like his first vest had a star on it when he started becoming Stone
literally.
Cold, and then fans got
He
behind
was
him
supposed
because
to be a member of the $1 Million Corporation too.
yeah, but we wanted that hero that could give the boss the finger, and so they had to give him that. Same thing happened with Daniel Bryan. They did not want to do what they did with Daniel Bryan, but the fans were so far behind him they had to change it. And the sad thing about that was I felt like that hurt his career. Um, because yes, he got the title and all that, but when he won the title at WrestleMania, he then had to vacate it because he hurt his neck. He comes back, wins the Intercontinental title, has to vacate it a month later because he hurt something else, and it was like it hurt him so much. It was like, dude, you're champion, but you can't hold the belt. It's like we want to get behind you, but then you go away.
You're danger prone.
Yeah, and that's just the sad thing about it. But um, going to what we were talking about, like in eFeds and stuff like that, with what you were just talking about, like we can see that in eFeds as well, where a gimmick kind of isn't going over because it's not believable. You might think it is, but maybe it's just because, like James Black told me, he goes, you have a very likable character in War and Peace. You have a very straightforward idea, but you talk too high pitched so no one believes you. We need to get some bass in your voice. And so I had to learn how to do that. And then now I'm in top tier storylines. And like you said with Roman Reigns, is like all he had to do was just turn a little bit heel. They got rid of the big dog gimmick 1 week. The next week he was the tribal chief. The week after that he was champion.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And like I said, I was always there was never a time that I stopped believing in Roman. I liked him from his when he was in the Shield to when he was going forward, and like when he got that because he's had leukemia before and then it came back, and that was really sad to hear because my grandma passed of cancer, and cancer is not an easy thing to go through at
No,
all.
it's not.
And when he came back, it was like a big shocker to everybody. Oh my God, Roman turned heel. And then when we look at Dean and Seth's career, Seth, of course, stayed around. Seth was always bound to be up there with the top of them, but he's also very danger prone. Now, Dean, I like him as Dean or Jon Moxley, but the problem is that's why he got in trouble in WWE because he was doing stuff that Vince did not like. Why are you doing that? Why are you putting that man through a table? No, stop doing that hardcore stuff. And it's like, that's just who he is. But like down in AEW, I feel like Tony Khan running it is just like the worst thing there because we have a crack addict that doesn't give a shit about wrestling, but anytime somebody's released, hey dad, can I borrow some money so we can hire this guy? Hey dad, this girl got released. Let's go get her and push her. But then they put all these guys on Dark, and then Dark doesn't go anywhere, and then they try to push these guys on the main show, and then it doesn't go anywhere, and it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Well, they did the same thing with TNA when the one girl was running it. Like there was a
Oh,
whole meme.
Dixie?
Huh?
Dixie?
Yeah, Dixie Carter. There was whole memes going on. It's like, oh, this guy got fired. Hey, watch him come to TNA and get a world title shot. Or Eric got the world title because he had a beard and he looked like Daniel Bryan. Then when Daniel got stripped of it, they made the joke like, "Oh, watch me come strip Eric of the title." And
So
like,
you
that
did
was the
not
whole
like
thing.
so you did not like the whole ECW coming back into TNA. You did not like the Aces and Eights. You did not like anything from that Dixie era.
No, I did, but I get to the point where like the jokes were like you were saying with Tony Khan hiring all the WWE people.
Uh-huh.
Dixie was the first one to do that, but she was just like, "Oh, here's a story with AJ Styles in WWE, let's have a story with AJ Styles here. And even AJ is like, oh, I guess stuff just happens if your name's AJ.
So, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you compare that to for WWE? That AJ, because AJ was. Are we talking about when AJ was fully in TNA?
When AJ Styles was in TNA and he had
Uh
that whole
huh.
relationship scandal, AJ Lee was having a
Oh,
relationship scandal too, and that's the whole thing. It was like Dixie Carter was getting made fun of for just strictly ripping them off.
okay, okay.
And it was like, oh, this guy
I
got
see.
fired. Watch him get hired on over here and watch him get a title shot.
Okay, okay. Now I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. I was like, huh? What do you mean? And now I see what you're meaning.
Mhm.
Now, what did you think about the Aces and Eights storyline?
I thought that was good. I think they pulled the trigger on it way too soon
What do you
on
mean?
revealing everybody.
Like when Foley was revealed to be president?
Yeah. When
Uh,
when
yeah.
uh, the match itself on how it happened was perfect the way they did it. I think they did
Okay.
it way too soon. I think Aces and Eights when they were showing up, they had like 20 to 40 people,
Uh huh.
and it was like all these
Uh
no
huh.
name people, and it was like, oh, are these guys indie wrestlers that are getting called up? And the next thing you know, they're down to 8 people like 3 months later, and then they're dwindling because they all got their masks exposed. I think they should have been.
Exactly.
I think they should have been masked a little bit longer and not been revealed the way they were revealed. And then the whole thing with Jackson and the other
The
UFC
Mafia,
fighter. Yeah, I think that
the
kind
main
of
event
hurt.
Mafia. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like WB was trying to, because at that time they were on Spike, and I believe Spike was like the main place to watch UFC, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Give me 1 second.
All right, for sure.
All right, I'm back. This one was screaming.
Welcome back. Welcome back. And
Yeah.
as I was asking, like, wasn't USC like known on Spike where they were at the time? Like, is that? I think that was the reason why they were bringing all these characters in. Like, King Mo was already a big thing, a part of this, but like, then you had Rampage Jackson and Tito Ortiz and all these
Well,
characters coming in. Like, I believe it's
remember they
because
also
Spike
they
was
also had a
running UFC.
contract deal with Bellator. Bellator was coming in too.
Ah, MMA. Okay,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I see what you're saying about the Dixie era. It could be like, depending on how you look at it, it was on and off. But I love the whole Bully Ray putting her through a fucking table. That was amazing.
Oh
That was
no,
good.
there were great parts in it, but I was just like, when you talk about Tony Khan, this is what I was getting at. When you talk about Tony Khan, like bringing in, like honestly, you're going to bring in WWE guys. Like we all know
Yeah.
that they all trade off and stuff like that. But it was just like, oh, here's this guy, here's this guy, here's this guy, and I saw that with Dixie, but Dixie was just like they were making like literally memes of her behind like this blue background, and it goes, hey, this guy got fired. I think his name was like Mason, and he was supposed to be part of like Titus Worldwide because they showed him like up in the Raptors talking to Titus and a couple others, and like he never saw him again. And it's like, hey, watching me bring him over here and give him a world title shot, and like that was like the whole thing with her was just like the idea of I'm just bringing over my who I grew up watching and making them more stars, and the people that got her there, she kind of put off to the side, and that's when they created the group Fortune because they were the ones fortunate enough to get TNA where it was, and then after Dixie Carter, you had the Hulk Hogan era, which some people say he was good, but some people said that he was a brilliant mind, but he just it seemed like he didn't want to be there. He was there just for Eric Bischoff's sake.
But Dixie was around during the whole Hulk Hogan thing, if I remember, because Hulk Hogan was running it up until 2013, 2014, because remember, Dixie Carter was like in the background a lot, but she was still there. But Hogan and Sting were running things.
Right, but that's what I'm getting at. Like she was no longer in the ring
Yeah.
doing all this. She was back, and then it was Hulk Hogan. And that's when things started like taking like a weird turn. Some things were
Okay.
cool, but other things were just like what they did with the NXT title. Like it was always a triple threat match. I'm like, That really needed? Uh,
Yeah.
Fact that you could trade it in at Destination X for a title shot, I was like, okay, that's cool. That's a neat little twist to Money in the Bank, but because it can't be cashed in. But if you're the champion, you can turn it in at this exact time. Um,
We're talking
but then
option C with the X division.
yeah, but then there's other things where it's just like, I think that looked good on paper, but
Yeah.
executing, I don't think you used the right people for that, and that's just my opinion on it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see exactly what you're saying. It was like a Money in the Bank thing, and Austin Aries was the one to create Option C, and
Mhm.
him being the self-proclaimed the greatest wrestler ever. I guess you got to have something like that to your persona. But then he did that whole thing where he dressed up as Suicide, and we got to see who was behind the Suicide gimmick at the time. How much times that gimmick got passed around because Daniels was in there, Saban and Shelley, I believe, both played it. I know uh uh what's his name? Kiyoshi from World Elite when he was around, he was in there. TJ Perkins and Caleb Conley, I think his name was. Like a few people were under that gimmick.
Oh yeah, but you go back to like AAA and like CMLL. A lot of people handed down their gimmicks, so that wasn't
Yes.
unheard of. It was just unheard of in America, um,
Yes,
and things like that. But it was also an interesting concept too, though, because Suicide was brought in through the video game, and they never done that
that is
before.
true.
Yeah,
And I
and you
think it was a
played as
fan that
Suicide.
made that video game, right? Like the
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like you played as Suicide because you went down to Mexico and then you had to rebuild yourself. So it was like anybody could be Suicide. So that like was the whole gimmick behind it in TNA is like who's Suicide? It could be anybody. Suicide is Suicide.
And then he became manic under the TJ Perkins when he joined the Revolution with James Storm, Sonata, who was the great Sonata. You had Abyss. You had Mahabali Shira come in as Koya. I thought that
Well,
storyline was interesting. I feel like it was underrated for what it was.
it was, but at the same time, like what got rid of Suicide was when Austin Aries took off his mask as Suicide when he was the X
Exactly.
Division title to take in. Is like now we got to change the name because the whole thing about Suicide was we don't know who Suicide is. But then when Hulk Hogan came out with T.J. Perkins, it was like okay, now we got to change the name.
Exactly. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Mhm.
crazy times for wrestling. Wrestling will always continue to have crazy times. And I do see what you're saying about the whole Tony Khan and Dixie thing. There are times where it was good, times where it was bad. Tony Khan, I'm always hit or miss with whatever is booked on AEW. I'm always hit or miss with anything on WWE. Like even with movies and shows that come out. Like I'm always skeptic about what comes out because I'm always like it's going to be a hit or miss. But like The Long Walk by Stephen King, I thought that was one of the greatest movies that came out of that year when it came to like horror and suspense and thriller. And I was like, you know what? This trailer looks amazing. I'm gonna go see it, and I was blown away.
Oh yeah, um, but take the what was going on with the companies, and things where things will blow you away and not. When you look at it in like an EFED standpoint, it's like um, the we're lucky enough to where we don't have contracts to companies. Like I can work in any EFED I want if they want me. So I don't have to. Like it's weird. It's like there's no rule. Like some people will say loyalty, some people won't. Like we gotta be loyal to this company. It's like we're e-fedders. We can be everywhere. The whole thing is just to get exposure for ourselves, and that's one thing that I do like about e-fedding compared to other companies. It's like, well, I have a contract with this e-fed. I can't work anywhere else. Type deal. So it's
Exactly.
like you can always have those magic moments anywhere. Like maybe you're going a little stale over here because you're constantly wrestling the same three guys. So you go over here and you wrestle a bunch of different guys, and that's more your standpoint. I like how the fact we have so many different, but we can all go to them. So
Exactly.
it's like watching your favorite movie, but now you get to watch it in 4K and digital surround and black and white in a different language and stuff like that, and you're always going to be satisfied. And there's also it also could be the other ways. Like you go to an EFA and it's like, oh, this isn't working out for me. Just be like honest about it. Like, hey, I came here. This isn't really my cup of tea. I'm out. Because you got like RCW very realistic, and you got other ones that are all fantasy based where they're aliens and they got superpowers and this, that, and the other. That's why they justify the blue skin or the red skin or this or that. And maybe that works for you and maybe it doesn't. But we're lucky enough to have the opportunity to go see it or be a part of it and not be tied down to a contract. And not have to be
Exactly.
worried about like the whole you got to show me loyalty type thing. And I'm like, do I need to really? I mean, some people might think that way, and if that is, that's fine. When I come into a company, I don't go and like, oh, did you talk to my boss at this company before I come in? No, I want to see what you guys are, and if I like it, I'll stay. If I don't, I'll say my piece and go about my business.
Exactly. And like how we were talking about with like with Shield and stuff, like I loved all three characters, Roman, Seth, but Dean, aka John Moxley, was always my favorite for what I've known for his work on the indies. I like that hardcore style, but he reminded me of like he wanted to do stuff that was like back in the territory days where you go around everywhere defending titles, go trying to bring in new people and stuff like that. Like the territory days, you can't redo those days. Those are done, sadly. But
Yeah.
like the indie promotions that you've been a part of, like you
Mhm.
said, because you said you were an indie person working on there, it kind of reminds me of the territories back in the day. And with eFeds, these remind me of like different territories, different places. Yeah, you probably will see the same people here that you see here, but you probably could go to one eFed. You don't see what people you see here, you know?
No, and then that's also another thing too, because I'm one of the few. I believe I am one of the few people that are in the EFED that plays a different person every place, and I get that. I actually took that idea.
But you have your cause like spread out like everywhere. Like you don't have the same call in each area.
No, there's a few I do, but I mostly try to do a variety because I'm that type that comes from the indies to where in one place, um, like in one EFED, I'm War and Peace, but if like you saw me in another company, I would go by a different name. So like Dean Ambrose is Dean Ambrose in WWE. In AEW, he's John Moxley. In the Indies, he's John Moxley. Edge,
Yes.
Adam Copeland. Christian Cage. So it's like I always had that idea. It's like when I started in OLW and I moved to FSC, then IPW, it's like I changed my name because that's what they did in the Indies. But then I changed the entire gimmick. And then when I started giving them all identities, I was like, oh, wait, that's kind of not how it works in the EFED world. But I'm going to bring the Indies to the EFED. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Now that everyone can see like the I guess the mastermind behind all these characters, I was like, I'm wondering how many people are going to blow up my DM about joining them or what character they want. I had one guy tell me, he goes, "Hey, I'm going to start this EFED, but I don't want War and Peace. I want Chris Chaos because I love what you
Wow.
do there." Yeah, and here I'll just give you an idea of like what all Chris Chaos was when I did promos was.
Okay.
All I did was this in the dark.
Okay.
I have a lightsaber, and all I did was wear a mask and put it where you couldn't see it, and the illumination would go off. And they loved that idea because no one that was dark was doing it. But I would also change colors and stuff, and it was like you're seeing how the chaos is taking over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
I like that. And going back to where you said where we were talking about your eFed company, I have four more questions
Yeah.
for your like on you starting your own Fed in the future. How do you plan on keeping the content engaging and unpredictable?
Um, Not having my management team so big.
So you're going to have a management team. Like,
Well, I I've been a part of management teams that are like 12 people, and I'm part of a
holy crap.
management team that's like 5 people. So the thing about it is, if I want to bring on a management team, I would want like 1 or 2 people.
So three at most would be your thing?
Yeah, 3 at most, just to help me keep track of things, and um like who's in a rivalry, and more importantly, what match are they trying to challenge for? Because if like they've been if I don't miss it, because let's say I'm at work or something, I don't miss it, and they're challenging each other to a cage match, and then I end up putting them in a sort of normal match, that's going to upset them because it's like, hey, we've been promoting this match. Why aren't we getting this match? So
Oh,
that that,
okay.
that would be
I
like
thought
the
you were
only
saying
thing
like
there.
immediately put them into the cage. I feel like you would have built up to that.
Right, but if they've been building up to that cage match and like that, the next one is supposed to be the cage match. Like they literally
Yeah,
said, like, "Hey, next week I want you in a steel cage," and I
that's
don't
supposed
put
to
them in
happen.
that.
You're
That
gonna
that's
put
gonna
that.
that's gonna upset them, right?
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. No, I get that. Yeah, I thought you meant like you're immediately pushing them into a steel cage on their first match, and I'm
No,
like, don't you need story to build up to that? I guess.
no, you do. But
Yeah,
what I'm getting at is like if they're challenging to a match and they accept the match and they don't get that match, I think that hurts them. And I think
yeah.
that but if you got like a roster of 30 to 60 people, you're going to need more than just my eyes or someone else's eyes on there. You're going to need a couple. But when it comes down to like actual management, like I think everything needs to go through. You can bounce ideas off of them, but you need to let them know like this is what's happening now, what's going on. Um, because my idea as a manager is I'm running the show. So I want to put these guys against these guys against these guys, and let's see what happens. They need to come back to me and tell me, okay, we got this and we're doing this. And then my whole thing is I plug it in, we sit back and watch the magic happen. It's going to be up to the player and the creator of the CAW to determine how successful they're going to be. If I get a guy in there that's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and then like we don't see him forever, we can't really explain on like why, like what why are you important? We're not on TV per se where we're a Brock Lesnar where we can show up or a Roman Reigns where we could show up every 6 months with a title. I'm important.
Yeah, we're not like that. This is a game to have fun in, and for
Yeah.
people like I have a company I book for that's like my main home company, and that's my baby. And I do all types of crazy matches. I don't have any rules on my show, so basically, I will build story towards the bigger matches, but I usually have like extreme rules, tables, falls count anywhere in cage matches on my main flagship show compared to like the bigger PLE shows, pay-per-view shows where I'll have like ambulance, last man standing, hell in a cell, stuff like that.
Yeah, see now like in my first show, I want to do 3 Royal Rumbles. Like
Wow.
my whole idea is like
Wow.
my roster could be anywhere from 20 people to 30 people, and then I'm doing 3 Royal Rumbles to crown my champions, and everybody has a shot. So I don't
Well,
know who my champion's going to be, but by God, if you're going to be my champion and be the inaugural champion, you better show me what you can do afterwards. One of the things that I think hurts a company, and this is my personal opinion, and I've talked about this with people in the companies as well. When you bring in a brand new title and the winner hands it off because they don't want to be champion because they either own the company
winner
or they
hands it
don't own
off.
the company, but they're like, um, I don't want to be champion, and they hand it
Oh,
off. I'm like, you just spent the whole show building up this title's prestigiousness just to hand it off. I'm like, it just lost its prestigiousness.
I've never seen this before ever. I can't really
Yeah.
say I've ever seen before. So you've seen this happen before.
hmm
Wow. I wow. I've never seen this or heard this. I've heard
Well,
of people pulling $1 million band with Andre, but nothing like that.
right, but I've also seen. Well, you've seen it in WWE as well, where like Nikki Cross won the 24/7 title and threw it in the trash, or the
Uh,
title. Yeah.
but that's throwing away a title. Like, I'm confused. Like, so you're saying basically getting rid of the title completely.
No, they just they'll get rid of the title themselves, or they'll hand it off to somebody. It's like I don't want to be champion. Give it to this person.
So they'll give it to somebody else, kind of like how $1 Million Man bought the world
Yeah.
title off of Andre.
hmm
Wow, that is wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I guess everybody has their pet peeves.
Well, everybody's there for their own reasons. Like when I watch like actual wrestlers, they say that, hey, um do you have um like where do you see yourself being? And it's like, Chris Jericho said, yeah, I never see myself as world champion. I want to be intercontinental champion like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So if they're after like specific titles, I understand that wholeheartedly because that's what they want to be, or they like that look, or something like that.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And Chris Jericho was I believe, a 9-time IC champion, but you got the Miz that's hold it like God knows how many times now.
Hmm.
Now, speaking of wrestlers that are going to be coming into your EFED, do you know what kind of wrestlers we could expect in your EFED? Will there be opportunities for local talent and upward comers? Is this going to be something exclusive to everybody?
It's going to be exclusive for everybody, but I don't like. My idea is I want to give people that don't get a shot.
Okay.
I want to get people that are like when they come into a company, like the company is already well established and stuff, so they're and, like they consider themselves good. They could be good, but they don't. They're not getting the opportunity because they got to wait their turn. Here's a chance to show us all what you can do.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's open to everybody. But like I said, I really don't want well established cause unless they're like looking at retiring them so they can like give the new people the rub and stuff like that. Um, and
So
that's
if I
kind of
was
like
to send you Urkel from Family Matters, you'd be okay with that, right?
what?
I, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have some characters that are literally movie characters. Like I have Medea from Tyler Perry's Medea, and I have Urkel, and I have Waldo.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
If they weren't like a straight ripoff, so if like with your Urkel, if he was
No,
just a
no, no. They
Poindexter.
literally are the exact. I literally have. They are literally from those like particular things. So Medea's Tyler Perry's Medea, all sassy. Like they have funny skits, but they also get stuff done in the ring. Like Urkel, like is Urkel from Family Matters. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, he also did that in an episode where he was going up against a Carney and he had that belt, and then
Uh
he
huh.
just ran from him and kicked him out of the ring and won. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's like if it's if it's if it's Urkel, like I would want him to be a redefined Urkel, where it's like yes, you can still be Family Matters Urkel, but I want your own spin on it. I want your own twist.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Now,
Yeah.
I did to honor Fit because that's my idol of all time. Anybody can
Oh
say
yeah.
anything, but like freaking, that's one of my main like movie show idols is Urkel. So I was like, you know what? I'll use this character. Like I like to use movie characters like
Mhm.
and honor them in every way I can. And yeah, I do see
Oh,
what you're saying. And freaking,
I was
yeah,
in a show. I was in a show where I was John Wick.
really. Oh wait, are you talking about Vexy's Halloween show?
Yeah, I was John Wick in that
Okay,
show. And then she put me up in a three
no.
on one match where I lost. But by God, did they? I was like, if this was real John Wick, all three of them would have been gone. I would have made dinner reservations.
Who were you against? Who were the characters that you were against? Because I heard that there was like different characters that showed up at the show.
Oh, I couldn't remember to tell you who I went up against because they're all in costume. I think I went up against a Power Ranger, uh,
Okay.
a Ninja Turtle, and Chuck Norris.
Wow. Do you
Yeah.
know Miss Susie? Susie's in the house, and welcome Jack Stoker.
I don't think so. I didn't see her.
That's Bexy's mom.
Oh yeah, I know Susie.
Yeah.
Uh, I make jokes with Susie because it's like you get away a lot with me because I have mommy issues, and she laughs. But she came up to me one time. This was a few months ago. She was like, "Hey, can you work with me?" And I'm like, "Okay." And she wanted me to take a look at her car, and I went through and looked at everything and revamped her car to her style and what she wanted with the AI sliders and all that. And now she's
You
just
created her
dominant.
car?
Yeah.
Wow. So
Well,
you do that with people. You help them recreate their cars.
I don't recreate their cause structurally, like image or anything like that. What they are is what they are. But if they're like, I'm not doing very good in matches, I'll go into the science department of it, the lab, and look at their sliders and find out why are they not doing what they want them to do, and I'll make the adjustments accordingly. And I'll show them like, hey, here's where the problem is, and I'll show them my call compared to their call. Um, and whatnot. And then it's like, okay, so here's what we're going to do now. Do you want to be a high flyer? Do you want to be a brawler? Do you want to be this? Do you want to be technically sound? And they'll give me an idea. Or if I've worked with them enough, it's like I kind of know what you are anyway, and I'll adjust. And it's like, let me know how it works out. And with like Susie Tomahawk, she'll hit me up. She goes, I've defended my title 8 times. Dear God.
Yeah, gosh, dude, in TKO, I don't know if you know that company ran by Xadrian, but freaking, she's been holding a belt, like she's only like lost it once, but then she gained it back again. I was like, damn!
Yeah, that call in TKO, I know exactly which one you're talking about. That's the one I fixed.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
you make that one just psychotic, man. You make that one unbeatable. It's like it's a god. It can't be stopped.
Well, that's why I tell you about the creative thing of when it comes down to creating cause. It's like I love the science behind it. Like everyone, for what I understand, like they have the look, like they know what they want their call to look like. I know I want my call to look like. I know what I want my call to do. I break it all the way down to where, like with 2K25, because they had the split community creations. A couple of guys had to take my call from one system and port it over to the other one because they had both. I didn't, and they're looking at my stats. And I told them, like, hey, make sure you have my stats correct. And they're like, Jesus, dude, like you have this down to a science. Like, why? This is why no one can beat you. And it's like, I know. Now keep that hush hush. That's my little trade secret.
I hear that.
And then over in
Good stuff.
RCW, where I play also as War and Peace, um, he looked at my guy and he was like, "Hey, can we make your guy bigger? Because you got a lot of powerhouse moves." I'm like, "That's my whole point." When I was in the Indies, I was 185 pounds and I could throw around 300-pound guys. But when you're in the wrestling, it's like, okay, you jump with me, I lift you up, and I can slam you. But I can hold you up there for like a good couple seconds to get that ooh ah pop. And so like that's the whole thing with him. And he's like, "Oh, so you're like a Mighty Mouse character." And I'm like, "Well, I'm a war machine. War machines don't bend or break. They just go to war until they fall apart. But they're
And you said
designed
that
for
thing about
something."
when you cut your throat, you said?
Yeah. And so he loves the gimmick, and he goes, "Dear God, dude, you just tear people apart." Like I went up against a guy that, when you look at us, he should have dog walked me, and I made him tap out, which was fun because I ended up writing it the promo afterwards, because I don't know if it was a glitch in the game or whatnot, but instead of like hooking the arm or hooking the leg and just reaching back in the Tequila Sunrise, I call the white flag. He ended up pivoting the leg in the armpit and hooking his knee with both arms and pushing it back. I'm like, I don't know if that's a glitch or if that's supposed to happen with a larger player, but I ended up using that. And then after the match, the call that I beat never got out of the ring. So I'm spinning this whole story of like, is this guy medically cleared? Did I injure him? And we haven't heard a word from him yet. So I'm wondering where this storyline's going to go.
I hear that. Heck yeah.
Yep.
I love it. Now, when it comes back to the company that you're wanting to start, how do you plan on promoting the show and getting out the word?
There's YouTube pages, and then there's other eFeds I'm a part of that I can talk to the owner about promoting it, or um, promoting it on their page or whatnot. But um, just putting it on the 2K community pages and the 2K, uh, you know, we love eFeds pages, and just see what happens.
Okay. Understood. So there is going to be a YouTube channel for this.
Yeah, right now my YouTube channel is Element Music 26. Um, One of the pictures I sent you to promote this between us, I'm actually turning part of Element into AI music. One of the things I'm realizing with with things like Suno and stuff like that, I can now have custom entrance music, and I don't have to worry about copyright.
Heck yeah.
So my
I
stuff
like
won't
that.
get shut down. And then you can have music that is custom to your character.
Whatever you need me to promote out, I'm always happy to help any way I can be.
Oh yeah. And if they want to
Now,
be a part of it, if they are interested in it, I can you can hashtag your caw element music 26. Yeah, hashtag that, and then I can reach out to you. You can reach out to me, and we can discuss whether the call you want fits or not
heck yeah.
with my vision of what I'm wanting to do.
Well
Or
said.
if you need one created, we can talk about how what it is you're wanting, and then I can get into the lab, create, send off, and then we put the stamp on it, or it goes back into the lab, or maybe it becomes one of my elemental unused forces.
Okay. Hear that, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for that. And my final question before we get off here and give our final thoughts. What's the timeline for launching this EFED promotion? What can viewers expect?
Right now, it's probably looking at, if I can get it off the ground, it'd probably be getting off the ground around May or June. And that's with me building all the everything from the scratch again, figuring out where I want to go with it, wise. But as far as like episodic, I'm probably looking at like every 2 weeks.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you have a flagship show you want to do? Are you gonna be just doing like those flagship shows before you actually start your first like pay-per-view?
Yes, and there's a company that I work with that does like win-loss records, and I like that idea. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit to where, wins and losses matter, but like after, like if I go weekly, like in WWE and AEW, there's like, every month is a new pay-per-view. So after 3 weeks, whoever's got the most wins, they're going to be in a number one contender match. Now, that could be one-on-one. Like, if I have 2 people with 3 wins, they're facing each other one-on-one. If I have 5 people with 3 wins, well, we're having a 5-way match. Or
Okay.
if I have an established champion and I have a gimmick pay-per-view, like let's say Elimination Chamber, and I have 5 people with W's, they're all 5 going into the chamber.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. I like that.
Yeah, that way I'm not feeling like I'm handing anything off to anybody.
You're a man of opportunity. You got to earn your opportunities.
You got to earn your opportunity, but I'm also like I'm tweaking it a little bit to where it's like, once the pay-per-view happens, everything resets, and then we go again. And then I'm also thinking about, instead of having 2 sets of titles, everything's going to be intergender. So I don't need that huge of a roster, but I'm also giving people the opportunity to do what they want. Unless it decides to become bigger and we need to go into 2 separate routes, that's what we do.
Amazing.
But like I said, this is all starting from the ground up, and we're going to start in a high school gym and work our way up to like a WrestleMania.
I love that idea, and I think many of others would love to see that as well. And I would like to thank you, Jason, for coming on, expressing what you feel about your characters. We hope to have you on again in the future, but before we get off, do you have anything you would like to say?
I have... Hold on, girls. We're trying to get a point in here. I have a lot of knowledge and wherewithal about, characters and customization and stuff like that. I've been doing this for a long time, but everything that I've stated, I want on record that is my opinion, and my opinion is not like Bible. I do think I have persuasion, and I think with the people watching, maybe I open the door up for myself and other possibilities with things. But if anyone took any offense that was watching to what I was saying, go ahead and hit me up, and we can have a conversation about it. Because maybe they see things a different route than I do. But yeah, that's just what I like everyone to take away from it. Like, everything I said is my personal opinion, and it's not Bible. But if you learned anything from it today, great. If you're upset about anything, that's fine too. I'm not here to make everyone happy. I'm just here to help people acknowledge and grow.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for that, Mr. Jason. And thank you for showing up, everybody. and I will be doing a Shadows Within later, going over some EFED shows. And go check out Jason Miller's stuff. Go check out his YouTube, Element Music 26. I am definitely going to go subscribe and support. Stay tuned for his EFED promotion that will be coming in the future. And we all hope everybody has a great day, good night, good morning, good evening. What?
You can check me out at 3Dub. You can check me out at RCW. You can check me out at Rated R Wrestling, C2CW, The New Breed, and hopefully more is to come. But those are my top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You have a great day, sir. And like as I was saying, we hope everybody has a great day, good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever y'all may be, and peace out.
Welcome to the neighborhood.